Haley.
Second to commence tonight's meeting.
AMS. All those in favor of starting tonight's meeting? Opposed? Hi, everybody. Okay, first we're going to start with Joe for roll call.
Okay, when I say close the name, order, represent name. Say here, if you're not here, don't say anything. Akal.
Here.
ALD. ALD. AMS. Here. Anime.
Here.
What's this? The critic. Criminal justice.
Here.
Flight. Flight. Catholic.
Here.
Hockey.
Here.
The Ink.
Here.
LTC. Here. Lit. LCO.
Here.
Cycling. Cycling. Ski and ride. Ski and ride. Strikers. Oh yeah, that's Ultimate.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Jeremy. Model UN.
Alternate.
Name.
There, Barbara.
Thank you. Lisa. Here. Outing.
Here.
Rugby.
Here.
Single Zeta.
Here.
Double wheel.
Here.
Spectrum. Here. Spiritual.
Here.
Twilight.
Here.
Weightlifting.
Yep.
Sport forecasting.
Here.
Veterans.
Here.
WWLR.
Alternate.
SBJ. SBJ. Drum.
Here.
Sarah Murphy.
Here.
Haley Goulet.
Present.
Megan Carroll. Megan Carroll. Stephanie.
At duty tonight. She was in uniform all day, so.
Stephanie. Drew. Hey. Brittany.
Here.
Sarah.
Here.
Megan Hassan. Ashley Pratt.
Yeah.
Ryan Sawyer. Nick Chapin.
Here.
All right, next we're going to move on to the minutes, which are all set.
Motion to approve the minutes?
Megan?
Second.
Lan? All those in favor of approving the minutes? Opposed? Motion passes. Next, we're going to move on to student body comments. Okay, Sarah.
So, on behalf of CAD, we'd like to announce that, due to reasons beyond our control, the following events for CAD for this semester have unfortunately been canceled. both the Portland and Boston bus trips. Cupcakes the Cupcake afternoon event, as well as the Candy Wall afternoon event. Also, due to reasons beyond our control, the following events have been moved to next semester. The Philharmonics will now be coming on September 16th. Ryan Reed, the Diabetes Awareness event, will also be happening next semester, as well as the afternoon events Sign Shop and Garden Globes and Eye Spirit. And we will be having events scheduled this semester. We moved and shifted around to cover these gaps. So if you guys want to know which events are happening when, please go to the Linden State Cat page on Facebook, as well as lindencat.com to figure out when the events will be happening for this semester.
Are there any other student body comments? Okay, we have one for the executive board. Our new ones came in. And because you're all representatives and dedicate your time, you get them now. Ashley and I can get them. I'll carry my hand now. Remember?
Oh, yeah. We weren't prepared for this. We weren't prepared for this. One carrier and okay, you carry.
Oh my God, I'm feeling bad. Are there any other student body comments? Haley?
Okay, so this is not to like attack anyone, it's just kind of like for a general, like, for your information when registering and getting ready for classes. So today I spent a little bit of time going through the GEU distribution and courses that we can take with the GEU that meet each bucket. And I can pass this around, and these are only the ones that I need, but there's quite a few, like for one of the buckets, there actually is no classes being offered for it. There's 41% of the courses, 32, 26%. So I can kind of just pass it around to the room if anybody wants to see it. But when you're registering for classes, make sure you register right on time because there's not a lot of classes being offered. And yeah. I'm trying to be cheerful and positive, but okay.
Are there any other student body comments? I have one more because part of tonight's discussion that's going to go along is about the school budget, and so I want to ask someone to motion to add to discussion action items for us to talk about ways that we can contribute to students about addressing the budget problem, the solutions we can come up with. Becky? Drew? Spectrum?
Cool.
All those in favor of adding that to discussion and action items? Opposed? All right, passes. That will be at the end of discussion and action items. Are there any other student body comments? Okay, I see none. So we're going to move on to reports and presentations, and first we have President Joe.
normally don't. Is it on?
It might be on you.
Okay. Where is your camera? Is it there?
They're in there.
Okay. I normally don't use the mic, and I prefer to be right here, but evidently I am on camera this evening, and I'm there, and I'm on the record. This is probably one of the few times, it is the only time, during my time here at the college that I am not happy to be here. I have some things to share with you, and then I would like to, harder than I thought. And then I'd like to, excuse me, and then I would like to take your questions. First of all, I want to thank you for giving me the time to speak about the budget and my memo to the community today. It is sad and a painful day, and I'm brokenhearted. As you know, I have visited with you 3 times this year to discuss impending budget cuts. And I advised all of you, I have been advising the college for the last 6 months, that while we would not lay off anyone this year, and while we would not close academic programs next year, unlike some of our peer institutions, and I noted that we would not lay off any full-time faculty next year, again, different than what some of our other peer institutions are doing. I did say that there would be staff layoffs. I have 3 words to share with you that are important so that I can put this in context for you. First, 2 words are sweetbriar, and the other word is consolidation. For those of you that don't know, Sweetbriar is a college that has $90 million in the bank, and it has announced that it is closing in 3 months. And there are, because they do not believe that in the long term they can survive. And there is example after example after example of that. Linden has $5 million in the bank. Consolidation. Our new chancellor stood right here and said the word consolidation. Well, the colleges won't consolidate, but maybe we'll consolidate administrations. Maybe, what does that mean? What that means is that if we can't survive on our own, we will survive as a collective. My responsibility as president of the college is to ensure that Linden stands on its own. Our challenge is real. I don't take my decisions and where we are at lightly at all. And I am trying to face them as president head on, and I am focused on the long term. Short-term pain, but long-term gain. I am focused not just on you, but on the students that come after you. And it is important for me to ensure that students can come after you. Today has been both sad and heartbreaking. And while it is that, I have the unfortunate responsibility today to advise 5 members of our community that their jobs would cease to exist beginning July 1st. I don't take this lightly. I understand the potential impact on individuals, their lives, the community, campus. It's heartbreaking. And I am sick over it, and we have done everything possible to avoid it. Those positions that some of you already know are the grants officer here at the college, assistant director for athletics, our director of the first year experience program, an assistant registrar, and a senior desktop support technician in IT. The individuals being laid off will receive their full salary and benefits through the end of this year, which is the right thing to do. It's more than the contract requires, but it's the right thing to do. And my hope is that it will, and they may choose to stay or not to stay, but my hope is that it will give them time, severance, if you will, and transitional support from us in the hopes that they can move on to the next stage of their lives. And I am hopeful that we can help in any way that we can. I am asking folks to be respectful of those individuals and how they choose to handle their departure from the college. Some may leave right away, some may want to finish things out over the next year, say their farewells. Some want to continue to stay to work with their students. I know that Bill is very passionate about his work with the seniors, his work with the softball team. We spoke about that at length, and he's heartbroken over that, but wants to stay to do that. And we're going to let him do that if that's what he chooses to do. You know, I think over the next few days, we'll work through some of that. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, I do believe that this will be it. That there are no plans for any further layoffs or further cuts going into 2016. We began the year with a $1.5 million budget deficit, and we were able to cover that this year without any layoffs and with some significant cuts. But our new normal with enrollment and with the state budget gives us a $3.1 million budget gap for next year. That's 10% of our budget. Just to put this in perspective, if I eliminated the entire athletics program tomorrow, that would not cover half of that deficit. Just to put that in perspective, $3.1 million is 62 employees at Linden State College. 62. That is the number we started with. And so we have gathered our forces in October, and the goal was to confront this problem head on and not kick the can down the road, because quite frankly, that's what some of the other colleges did, and you see the challenges they are facing now. I was determined not to do that, even though it would be challenging and difficult and painful. I believe that we provided some ongoing communication. We did town halls, we did brown bags. I held 50 meetings with every single department, academic, non-academic. I had 3 open meetings with students. I came to SGA 3 times. I met with community members, alumni, government officials. Believe it or not, the result of the budget that we have on the table has saved jobs. I know you find that hard to believe, and that's hard to hear given what you've heard today. But I need you to know the ideas that you have shared and the ideas that others have shared with us throughout the course of the last month have saved jobs. I'll give you some examples of some of those ideas. Some of them are practical, some of them are not. A lot of you talked about energy. How much money are we wasting on the lights and oil and heat around here? That's a fair question. A lot. The challenge we face is that in order to fix that, we have to be prepared to invest at least $100,000+ in thermostats and systems in order to get us where we need to go. And we'll do that over time, but it will take time. Some folks have said, well, what about all that money you spent on all those other projects? That's a fair question. I need folks to understand that there is what is known as, and I mentioned this earlier in the year, one-time money and money that comes to us year after year. We are given pots of money that we can only use once, and they can only be used for projects. I know that may not make sense, but that's the government. And that's the law. And I am required to spend that money not to pay people, but to do projects. If I could spend it a different way, of course we would spend it a different way. But we are limited in how we can spend certain dollars. Some folks have asked me, well, Joe, why don't we charge parking fees? Just what our students need, another fee, which I know is controversial. But just to put this in perspective, if I charge every single student here on this campus $50, it would not save one job. That comes out to about 50 grand. Just to put, again, and that assumes that all of our students have a car and we want to park them. And the staff and faculty within their contracts are actually entitled to free parking. So things are a bit more complicated. They're not as easy as one may think. I think from coffee services to supplies to exploring new ways to generate revenue, people have given us a lot of ideas, and we have listened, and we have used those to save jobs. I think that we have taken every angle we know. Conferences and events have been working hard to generate new revenue. Departments have struggled with cuts to bring us to break even. We've had retirements, vacancies, resignations, restructuring, reorganization. We've incorporated as much as we can. And the result of that was that we were still forced to reduce jobs here at the college from 62 reductions to 5. So what does that mean? I don't have all of the answers for you tonight, but what I can tell you is several of the peers came to see me today. The peer program will remain intact. The position changed because of the elimination of IMT 1020 and changes to the SOAR program. I think it's important to note that our SOAR program is actually, in comparison to any other school that I have ever worked at, the most expensive program of any orientation of the 6 schools that I've worked at. And for a college of this size, that is not sustainable. I'll also share with you that it is true that that program helps to increase retention. But over the course of the last couple of years, that retention for first years has actually plateaued, and this year has actually declined. What does that mean? That means we really need to rethink what we're doing and how we're doing it, not just in a single program, but across the board. Somebody asked about, Hallie, I believe you asked about, or expressed concern about courses for next academic year. Fair question, fair point. Yeah, we have had substantial reductions in courses by part-time faculty. And that may continue to happen, but let me tell you why we did this and what has happened. We did this because this semester, we have 40 classes this semester that have less than 5 students. And we have 3 classes this semester that have 30 or more students. The break-even point is 15. Economically, that's not sustainable. Now, I have asked the Dean for Academic Affairs. There are more courses, but we have masked them. What do I mean by that? They will not show up on the schedule until other courses are filled. That's intentional. I would rather us have a demand for courses and create more courses, which is exactly why you need to speak up and say, we have 10 or 15 more students for this course. We need to create another section. We will do that. But we need to have the demand for that to happen, as opposed to us having 5 sections of only 5 students each. So I think you know where I'm coming from here. Look, there is no way for me to sugarcoat any of this. It's heartbreaking in every way, and I'm really grateful for everyone's participation across the community. And there has been a lot of it. I do believe that making these decisions, while painful, is not a sign of weakness on the part of the college. I believe it's a sign of strength. A sign of weakness is to do nothing. A sign of weakness is to kick the can down the road and to deal with it at another time. And I'm not willing to do that. We have the support of the board, we have the support of our community, we have the support of the chancellor. I know that there's pain, and there's hurt, and there's anger out there. It's not like I haven't read it, it's not like I don't hear it, it's not like I don't feel it. You may find this hard to believe, but Joe's a regular guy too. And he hurts. And you can be mad at me, and that's okay. And you can yell and scream at me, and that's okay. I get it, I do. But I think I've been here in the last 2.5 years. I'd like to think that I've shown you that I care. At least I've done the best that I could to do that, in my administration has. No one wants to be here. But most importantly, I want Lyndon to be here. That's why we are doing what we are doing. So what I'm asking of you, I'm not asking you to agree. Somebody said to me today, well, what if the students protest? My response to that was, okay. I'll probably sit with you and have the conversation wherever that's taking place. I would rather us sit and have a conversation wherever that is, and I will do that. I will meet with whoever you ask us to meet with. My dean will meet with whomever. And hey, if someone else comes up with a better idea that finds us X amount of dollars and we're able to do something, of course we're going to consider it and do it. But for right now, this is where we are today. And I am asking you to support each other. I'm asking you to support those that have been impacted. I'm asking you to support the departments. I'm asking us to be a community. And I'm asking us, whether we agree or disagree with one another, to respect one another and care about one another and try to look for solutions together. So, I'm going to stop babbling and so you can ask me any questions you'd like, or you can say whatever you feel you need to say. Yeah.
I'd just like to say, you want to speak to me, you know, we all see it, we all feel it, and I don't feel they should have a job and do that job.
Well,
He or she will.
I appreciate that, but at the end of the day, this isn't about me. I do appreciate it very much. You know, this is about the college, it's about the college long-term, it's about serving students long-term. Yeah.
I just want to say that I fully understand where you're coming from, and I know this is not just about you, it's about everyone. And I just want to say that no matter what, you know, we should all just we're just going to stay together as one big happy family and just ride this thing out and, you know, not battle each other, but, you know, support each other. And you're absolutely right. And I understand, you know, it must have been hard for you to get up on that podium and like.
Thank you. This family is also fun.
That is true.
And
Good
families fight and don't agree and try to look for ways to solve problems together as a community. And that is what I'm asking us to do. Yes.
I understand, but this is still a business, right? A business being run and things aren't being done effectively, I don't think. And you may smirk at me and laugh, but you know, why can't you or any of the other meetings take any sort of pay cut whatsoever until we come a little bit out of it?
Actually, you might be surprised to learn that that's happened. You might be surprised to learn that I actually took a 30% pay to come here. And I donated about 7% of my salary back to college every year. So I can only speak for myself in terms of practicing what I'm preaching. I can ask that of some administrators, but I also think it's important for you to know that most of the people that work here are not administrators and are union employees, and I don't have control over what they do. In fact, of the 200 people that work here, there are 20 administrators that I have control over their salary. All of the rest are in collective bargaining units, so I have very little control of what their salaries actually are.
I guess I just had a hard time with how things were handled.
Okay.
You know, cut the rate this morning, and people were let go this morning. And then their leader sent out a few hours later. And the people, and this was their livelihood, and they didn't, I feel like they were almost disrespected because the time was not given for those people to even react without people coming in and bombarding them to, you know, say they were sorry or all that stuff. Like, if you fire someone, give them at least 24 hours to handle that before the whole community. I respect.
With the economical, to create a small program where, like, because of the community, how different students go to their, like, hometown high schools and preach why they call it a great school. Like, where I grew up, we have 2 high schools that have amazing music programs. It would be so easy for me to go there and to bring at least 20 students from each school. Just learning about the program here.
We're always looking for help and support in recruiting the students. The most important individuals that can actually recruit for the college are our students. And those students find their way here from word of mouth. And so the answer to that question is yes. I'm sorry, what's your name? Jillian, thank you, Jillian. I'd like to respond right now. I understand what you're saying. It's interesting because I think we talked at length about how we can be respectful. And so the people that I spoke to today are employees until the end of June. And so we've been very intentional in terms of ensuring those people are here but have the flexibility to stay or not stay to help them with their jobs. But I do understand your point, your perspective, that, okay, yes, you have a conversation with them, but you have waited 24 hours, for example, to then tell them. Problem in a small community like this, sadly, is as soon as folks walk out the door, you can assume that a lot of people knew a lot of things. It is just the nature of a place like London. So I do find myself challenged by that. In fact, when I walked in this morning, I had folks come up to me and say, so I understand you're 95 people off today. What each required. And so it is a tough call. I'll take responsibility for it. And I respect where you're coming from. But I can assure you that the intent is not to be disrespectful. The intent is genuinely to try to be supportive.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying is that things happen like that in the future. It's something to consider.
I understand.
And I have another question.
Please.
So, say I'm a member of the softball team.
Yes.
And one of my coaches was one of that stuff. So, this is my senior year, and you know what happens is that they don't have to stay here until the end. And I wouldn't expect them to do it. We found another job. You know what happens to us And then what happens to those students who are taking his course? What happens to them? Do they just get screwed over or something like that?
Well, the conversation that we had today, and it's too soon to answer that question in its entirety. What I can tell you is, let's assume the worst case scenario just for a second, okay? Yes, I'm looking at Jonathan, we would immediately look to find a coach or to have someone lead the team. And two, we would have someone to take over the classes, because that's fair and appropriate. But in the initial conversation we had with Bill, he expressed to us, because his contract as an employee and his contract as a softball coach were two entirely different things. So while he may have been laid off as assistant director, he was not laid off as a softball. So he could, so while I expected that he wanted to teach out this class, because he's articulated that to us, he's made it very clear to us that he is committed to the softball team. Talk about it guys like. I would be surprised if there was a change there, but that's a decision he needs to make, and when he makes that decision, we'll support it one way or another. Yes.
I have two questions. The
Sure.
first is that you mentioned the peer leader program is going to run as normal, and my question for you is that after July 1st, do you have a plan on who's going to be our supervisor?
Yes, I believe that by next Monday, Jonathan, I don't know what we have to share there yet. I know that.
Yeah, we got to speak with the current director and make some decisions.
So as I understand it, Jonathan is in conversations with Donna. But that by early next week, there's some discussions happening now. I do know that the peers will be brought together to engage in a conversation and will be able to provide you.
And then my second question is that what do you expect the peer leader program to look like after like this year?
Yeah, I don't know if I have the answer to that question, okay? Because Dominic and Lauren, hi Lauren, sorry. Dominic and Lauren came to see me today, and I appreciate that. And we only talked about this very briefly. I wanted to reassure everyone that yes, the coordinator positions would remain intact, yes, the chair positions would remain intact. I do think that the peers have an important role here in helping to define the future of the program. INT 1020 doesn't exist anymore, okay? That decision has been made by the faculty, it's done. So we have no control of it. Okay? Secondly, yes, there have been significant financial issues across the entire college. And I know that the peers have been working very hard, coordinated in particular, with Donna to find ways to streamline the program. And I also understand there have been some conversations about peers helping students before they even get in the door in a new and different way. I think there's an opportunity here for peers to work with the staff to create their own program, whatever that may be. You know, and I know that's hard because we're so used to doing things a certain way. But I have to tell you that, and this is not just for the peer program, throughout the entire college, yeah, there are things that haven't been run efficiently and effectively at all. Like I said, 5 people in a class, 50 classes, is not from a business model sustainable. So we certainly do have work to do. And I think across the entire college, we need to be thinking about how we do our work. Yeah.
I am sure that you know me because I'm always yapping about the social sciences department. Honestly, if I wasn't a part of this program, and I love it, and I love the people in it, and of course I want to defend it, but we're the classes you're talking about with 5 students or less.
Yeah.
we're the ones who are only around because you need us for GEUs. And if I was just looking at this very cold-handedly, I would say get rid of the faculty, hire adjuncts to teach the GEU levels, and get rid of the entire department. So I guess my question is, why should I talk to high school students who are interested in social sciences and say, come here? Because is there even going to be a social sciences department? And that goes for all smaller GEU center majors.
That's a fair question, and the answer to that is, I don't know. I think it's important to understand that the faculty are now engaged in conversations about what is the future of Linden State College. 83% of our students are in one of 6 professional programs. And then the bulk of the students that are left, most of them are in education. Just a lot of our liberal arts courses, departments actually serve in terms of the GEU. Now, why that's important is because all of the data shows that a college that has a strong liberal arts core plus an experiential component will fare far better than just a traditional liberal arts college. That's where the trend is going. We, as Linden, have an advantage there. So I do need you to know, that would kill me to say, but the truth is, I do think that the faculty are going to be engaged in conversations about who are we as an institution and what is it we should be delivering. I don't have the answer to that question yet, but I do think it's fair for us to ask the question. And I do know that Nolan Atkins, who has been a great dean of academic affairs, is really pressing the faculty on these issues. And I think a lot of these conversations are going to happen in the next 8 months.
I respect that. I think it's just Linden is really blessed with a wealth of wonderful professors who could teach in any number of institutions. And I feel like the ones in the smaller departments are being shortchanged. They're teaching the same courses over and over to people who honestly don't care. And it feels like really disrespectful to them to have them basically waiting to be told you're redundant. Which just, I understand that that's not something that is happening intentionally and that it's not necessarily something we have control over. I just feel like it needs to be said.
I respect that.
So, going back to retention and first year experience, you said that first year experience obviously works around retention, but you said that retention has even fallen in the past couple of years. Actually looking at retention, the biggest retention rate drop happened when the new enrollment management plan came into effect.
I don't know what new enrollment management plan is talking about.
So the way we go about enrolling students and you coming in, knowing how we enroll students and everything and how that all works, like admissions and all that. They decided to use their plans and everything, but the biggest drop in retention came in the past couple of years and that started to change.
Okay. I can't respond to it because I don't know the specifics. Okay, in all fairness. But I will certainly go back and take a look at it. What I do know is in the short time that I have been here, is I understand that there was a huge uptick in retention, and then kind of leveled off. And then recently there have been some challenges in retention after that. But that's not a direct result of one program. That's a result of multiple things that are happening in higher education, across the college, across the VSC, we have the economy. So there are a lot of reasons for that. What I am saying is that we need to be having a conversation about actually taking a look at the program in new and different ways that actually expand the work, or expand the support we provide to students in other ways where they might be struggling. But I don't know the answer to it. We go here, yes.
Going back to the classes, like the number of classes, and how you said that there's classes that are mass that will be released after. And you said you need to that if the classes are full, you need to, how are the people supposed to know? Like, who do you tell?
What will happen, what I believe will happen, is that some of that will trigger automatically. So for example, as a course becomes full, the department and the dean's office would then trigger another section.
I just know, like, personally, with the way that my major's set up, I don't know about other majors, like, if you don't get into a class, like, that will set you back, like, a whole semester.
I'm very cognizant of that. That is the biggest problem for us. I'm very cognizant.
Like, as far as the last semester, as I'm registering for classes, when a class is full, like, and you need to know that there's 15 more students that want to go in, where, like, this is the first time I've heard of this, that if you, I wouldn't know for details, and how are you to know that there's not 15 other people that didn't know who to tell?
I actually appreciate hearing this, because, and Brett's going to take copious notes for me. What I'd like to be able to do is go back to academic affairs, and find out so that our students know exactly what's going to be happening and how it's going to be happening, particularly for students in their junior and senior years who need certain courses in order to complete their degree. Now, that does mean that there will be some courses that only have 4 or 5 students in them. I mean, if I have a core group of students that need a class in order to graduate, we're not going to have it. But we're going to do it strategically. That makes sense. Yeah. I can't get a break today.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I wanted it to not get all of you.
Okay. Thank you. I can get one of those. Do we have one of those?
Here.
Right in there.
What? Okay, hold on.
Yeah, put it in here. Should we lift them out?
I see the bottom.
The bottom?
See the bottom? Okay. Thank you. Well, yeah, yes.
I just want to add, just being like a first year student here,
Sure.
and like just like the cheerleader completely, like having that and this entire program in itself has been really great to have, and having even like with the class and everything, just it's a really great program, and I'm just like concerned with the cut of at the director level of Donald's job and how that's going to affect all the cheerleaders together, because I've kind of gotten to know all of them now.
Sure.
And I'm just a little bit worried how it's going to affect them, how it's going to affect the incoming students, and just how people are going to see how it's going to work for next year.
Again, I know that Jonathan and his team are going to be meeting peers as a whole. I don't know exactly what else is going to happen, but I know that sometime, I'm going to guess early next week, Jonathan.
I'm meeting peers tomorrow.
Oh, you're meeting conversation. Okay. So I think that Jonathan and the group will be able to speak more specifically to some of the concerns you have. You can assume the questions that you've raised, or the concerns you've raised, we've already engaged in those discussions. Prior to making any of these decisions, you need to know that we've been. So if we do next, so for example, when faculty assembly said, we're pulling the plug on IMT 1020, we all immediately responded, well, what does that mean? How does that impact our students? And what are we going to provide to this place? And I do know that there are some plans to do some of those things going into the fall semester. Yeah?
I'm usually very loud and boisterous and always like showing my opinions, but I think that what you did was a very, very hard decision. And although it kind of took me aback to see my director crying and coming to the peer leaders and trying to tell the peer leaders before the email went out that she no longer had a position here. I think that the whole situation was handled very well. And I respect you for your decisions. I respect you for having the college's best interest in mind and the future of this college's best interest in mind. Because I love this college and I want this college to be the best it can be.
I'm gonna, I'm sorry.
It's pretty cold.
Sorry.
I didn't know if you noticed, but it's pretty cold.
I don't have any control of the weather.
I just wanted to speak to you. First of all, is my fear that myself and other students who are first-year students might want to leave. Okay? I could go to school in Massachusetts for 5 years. I go to just on student campus. But I chose to come here because I love it. Okay? And I chose to come here because I love the music program. But you just need to find new ways about saving money. And I know that we spoke to Fire about that earlier. But do you know of any other ones that we can entertain? Even small ones, parking passes.
Yeah.
Everything adds up.
Everything adds up. And you should know that we have a laundry list of revenue generating ideas and things that we're going to pull the trigger on. Part of the challenge we face, Carlos, you can come up with ideas and you can implement them, and you can make the investment to implement them, and that's a roll of the dice. Okay? So, for example, my hope is, yes, our program with NECC, our early college program, our Linden Flex program, and maybe we'll talk about parking tests again. But if I look to implement 100 things that are on the list folks have suggested, I need to implement those things first to see what works in order for us to generate revenue. What I will admit, I am being conservative here, because the last thing I want is to say, we're going to initiate these things, they're going to be successful, I'm going to put that in the budget, and then if they're not successful, or if we don't raise the money that we hoped, because we just kind of rolled the die, then we find ourselves in a similar position, and I don't want to be in that.
Right. That level of risk taking is going to take some serious thought process.
And given where the other state colleges are right now, a number of colleges, they rather didn't pay attention, or they chose to take some of those risks without looking at the data, without thinking carefully, and they paid a heavy price for it. So, yes, we will initiate some of those. Yes, I ask you to share your thoughts and ideas on what some of those should continue to be, but know that that helps impact the future. Right now, I have built a budget that does 3 important things. That keeps everybody else here employed, that continues to provide what we need to provide for students, that is a balanced budget, and that does not tap into the one-time money we have in the bank. You know, $5 million may sound like a lot of money. That won't get us through a couple of months. And that's our savings that I need us. VTC has no money left. They are borrowing money left and right. Millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. Some of our other sister institutions are millions of dollars in debt, and they are not in the same place. They have not done the level of planning we have done. So I'm probably the president that's taking the hit at the moment. But I don't want to be the president who 6 months from now is saying, I didn't do anything and now we're worse off. I'm sure that will be seen as a criticism of my colleagues, but I hear what you're saying. Here, 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 yes.
Just for the record, how much money do we need as the college currently receive from the state of Vermont?
$4.5 million. That's just under 15% of our entire budget. We are ranked 49th in the United States for state appropriation. I was just in a meeting with college presidents in DC, and somebody was complaining that their appropriation had dropped from 75% to 65%, and they didn't know how they were going to survive. I asked them if they could, we'll take the 65% every day of the week, but the bottom line is we can't count on the state. We just can't. At least I can't build a budget and bet on the state in order for us to move forward. I'm sorry. Who was next?
So, of course, I just want to thank you for being here, and for making the decisions you made. I firstly want to say that I think we need to take a step back and realize that we are in a unique institution, a unique place where we have the ability to sit down with our faculty and with you or with the students and talk about these things and talk through these things in a pretty calm and productive way. I don't think many institutions have that ability to be able to do that. What you said, how many meetings, 50 meetings in almost a month with different departments, 3 town halls with students. I don't know how anybody else feels about that. I mean, the town hall that I was able to make it to that evening. I remember seeing Rachel from Christian Outreach there, the SGA exec board, a handful of others. I definitely like to see those events more well attended. And when we're having these types of conversations about how to cut costs and how to increase revenue, especially where we live in a unique place where we have the ability to do that. You know, and it just comes down to better communication and just across the board. You know, people to be able to go to those events and express their opinions, or maybe it just comes down to people didn't realize how bad the situation actually was until the event.
It doesn't become real for people until a decision is made.
Quite frankly,
I understand.
And then secondly, I had the opportunity to sit with Beth Norris in her office for a little over an hour this afternoon and talk with her. And I was happy to hear that. Happy to hear you say at the beginning of this that these are one-time cuts, because I believe, and I know that she believes as well, a lot of people in our department believe that we just can't cut away the situation. If you're at the bottom of a hole, you can't dig your way to the side of the mouth before you get there. You have to build a ladder and climb your way out and build your way out. And I think it's important that we identify the areas of waste, which are ways that are extra spending, or ways in which we can be more conservative, and at the same time build our programs. As Bill mentioned, going to different high schools. I'm doing that on my own in April. I'm going back to my high school to talk to the music department and trying to improve on my own. And I don't want to do that. I do it because I love the school and I love the program here. So, I think we need to take advantage of the unique environment we live in, where we have the ability to do these things and just contribute a little bit more beyond that.
I'm sorry, I promise.
I guess I just have one question.
Sure.
Would be, I guess why does it take us so long to react? And not that long ago, we were talking about, plans to go to Texas and all these other plans that we were looking hard. And then this just seems like a complete shock. And I just want to know why it's so long to react, and why does we know about this?
Well, I'm smiling because back in July, And I don't expect students to know this as much, okay? But I do think it's important for you to know that since July, we've been talking about this possibility, okay? And over the summer, what happened was we started to see all of the colleges in Vermont started to see a rapid decline in the number of students. So there were students who had deposited and said they were coming, changed their mind to the tune of 100 of those. A good portion of that actually went to UVM went to a waitlist. When UVM went to a waitlist over the summer, which is something they never do, students then all of a sudden had an opportunity to go to UVM instead of one of the state colleges, and they seized that opportunity. That spells a disaster for us as state colleges and institutions. So here we found ourselves in July, all of a sudden, in a situation we did not expect to be. So I think that's the first thing. I don't think that this is reactionary at all. In fact, we have spent the last 6 months working with the community and trying to build a budget so that we would not have to engage in it. As I shared with you, we were at the high end. And so I think we've been chipping away for months and months and months and months and months. At this time, this is the end.
Is more of our budget being allocated for admission? Are more resources being given to them? Because those are the people that bring us in.
Yeah.
You know, that, and we are what brings this in.
There in 2 ways. First of all, I don't think the answer is admissions. Okay? I think the answer is keeping the students we have. Okay? When I said that since the day I walked in the door, the part of the challenge we face at a college like Linden is that students come here and then they transfer to go someplace else. They use Linden, quite frankly, as a community college in some respects. And in addition to that, we have a number of students that come here and are not successful here, or that simply can't afford to stay, or don't have, or need more help and assistance. And so we have to invest more time and energy in trying to keep the students here that are already here. In other words, we will financially, as you mentioned, a business perspective, it is far better for us to keep 50 more students that are already here than recruit 50 more at the front. Now, having said that, it's also true that within the Northeast, the demographics have shifted substantially. That the number of high school students has declined rapidly. And so everyone is competing for the same pool. However, in the state of Vermont, there are actually 1,000 students that graduated from high school last year. None of them are in college. So part of what we are doing is actually changing some of our admissions models. And yes, we actually have invested or are investing in additional resources that speak to not just specific majors, but target specific areas where we believe students would find Linden an attractive place. But Linden isn't always, I tell folks that if we can get people to come up here and they see the place, there's a good chance they might want to come. But getting people to actually agree to make the visit is actually a lot more challenging than you might think. When our admissions team goes to a lot of these fairs, college fairs, they'll have these great conversations. The students will see all of the marketing materials, and then they'll say, "Oh, where are you?" Well, we're in the Northeast season of Vermont, and unless you are a particular type of student that would like this kind of community, sometimes that can be a challenging sell. So it really depends.
Well, but then it's a sales strategy, so why don't we spend more time on our employees who are in admission with improving their sales? That's what
I understand. I did promise Ricky first, and then I'll come over. Yeah.
Are we looking at another tuition increase?
The board, yes and no. okay? There's a 2-year tuition plan that was just voted on by the board. Next year is 3%, the year after is 0. Which comes out to 1.5%, which just to put that in perspective, a 3% increase in tuition for the college means $400,000. I still have to find the other 3.05 million, or you know, anyway. So it doesn't equate to a great deal of money, but yes, 3% and then 0% the interest. Okay. I'll take one or two more because I know that you have a meeting and I apologize. Yeah.
I understand that everybody in-state and out-of-state students are in the same boat, but speaking as an in-state student, you're here, you put your big boy pants on and you're letting us talk to you and say things that can't be comfortable. So how do we go to the state and say, you're sinking who knows how much money into K-12 education for students who, guess what, can't succeed when they get here? You give us like second to lowest investment of any like state in the union. How do we tell them that they're failing us, quite frankly?
The answer is actually easier than you think. Vote. Look, you know, it sounds so simplistic, but it's not. The largest voting bloc in the entire country are college students. The problem is the people that vote are senior citizens. And because the senior citizens vote, then most of the allocations go toward the groups that vote the most. And in this state, I mean, we have a governor right now that won by a couple thousand votes, okay? There are 1,200 students here in the entire VSC. Let's say 60% of them, actually it's more than that, probably 70% of them are Vermonters, okay? There's 8, 9, 10,000 students. I mean, they sound simplistic and they sound trite, but voting does that. You need, the words are escaping me. You need to come together as a collective. And you need to make your presence known. And you need to be in people's faces, quite frankly, Montpelier. And you need to be loud. I wish I had better advice than that, but really that's the only thing you can do. Now, I am being realistic. Vermont has a $100 million budget gap. So at the moment, I just want to make sure, I think, and the chancellor wants to make sure that we are keeping the allocation we currently have. I mean, the worst thing that could happen is that appropriation actually goes down. So, yes, we'd certainly like more, but there is always the danger that it could be less, given what the state budget situation is. But you have to speak up, you have to vote, you have to organize. I'll take one more, I think. Do you have a question? I'll take Carl, you had one, and then we'll wrap up here, yeah? Did you have one? No? Okay, here we go, that was an easy question. Thanks.
Okay,
Next question.
you just stated that you are going to provide the participants you have here.
Yeah.
And my question for you is like, do you want an actual strategy, or is that just kind of like what you like think the plan is? Because without an actual strategy, I don't see how
Yes, you have, no, I'm not pulling it out of the way, and that's a fair question. There is a strategy, there's an entire lawn management team. But what we've been doing this year, and this is important, is one of the things in the past, what I realized when I came here, I realized we don't have good data. We were making decisions without looking at the data, the facts. And so we've really spent the year pulling together as much data and as much information as possible so that we can take a look at it and we can make the right decision. So this is the group that we see is struggling. Why are they struggling? This is what the data shows. This is what the data shows, and this is what we need to be doing. So I would share with you that at this point, that is the work that we are engaged in.
Okay, I have a quick follow-up. Is there any way that we could like sort of have like a committee with like students, faculty, and staff to like try to, I don't know, like have a discussion about things that we can try to do? Because I know we just talked about ways to raise money, that doesn't necessarily address keeping students here. I think that's a whole other problem.
Yeah.
And I just think that there's any way.
I would certainly support that. And if the student government, came to me and said, look, Joe, we'd like to suggest a committee, we'd like to suggest this is what it would look like, this is who should sit on it, I would certainly support that. What I would like to invite you to do is two things. First of all, thank you very, very much for allowing me to come here, for listening to me, for not telling me. This is a very difficult, painful day for all of us. I'm asking for your help, okay? I am happy to meet with any groups. The deans are happy to meet with any groups and any individuals to engage in the conversation, to listen, whatever. And I am happy if, folks want to pull some groups together and engage in some conversations, whatever they may be. Absolutely, okay? I have taken an hour of your time. We're a good place. There are good things that are happening here. And I want you to be proud to be here. We have a lot of support right now as an institution. And I'll share with you, our fundraising is up 60%. 60% over the last 2 years. I have been pounding the pavement, telling the Linden story, because it's a great story to tell. Yes, we're facing some challenging times, but yes, we've also made some tough decisions that are going to position us well moving forward. I need your help to continue to position us, to help us to continue to be strong. So I'll take your ideas, your suggestions, and any help you can give, okay? Thanks for listening and thanks for your time.
Okay, next up is me. Okay, so last meeting we talked about a resolution about having gender neutral bathrooms on campus. So the subject is genderless facilities across campus. Erin Rossetti and I have talked about this ongoing throughout the year, and there's a goal to eventually have a genderless facility in the fitness facility and just all across campus, so there's equal opportunity for everyone to be comfortable with any facility that they're using. So that's the ultimate goal for the campus. And so here's the resolution. Whereas the Linden State College community has a number of students with non-normative gender and sexual identities, and whereas the Linden State College Student Government Association, Spectrum Alliance, and Fairness, Awareness, Inclusion, and Relationship Committees see fit that the college provide comfortable and welcoming environment for those students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Linden State College will provide and promote facilities that are sustainable for students with non-normative gender and sexual identities. And non-normative gender and sexual identities basically means people who don't define themselves as male or female. So it's anything that goes beyond those traditional gender binaries. But here's the resolution. I have the signature of the co-presidents of Spectrum Alliance. My signature is on there on behalf of the student government. And tomorrow I am meeting with Pat Shine, who is the head of the fair committee, to get her signature and sit down and talk to her about this. And then I will be submitting that to Joe. I didn't bring the posters because I forgot. I'm sorry. But I will definitely present them at the next meeting and let you know about the status of the resolution and what President Joe says about that. Are there any questions? This is kind of an update. Yeah.
This was as meeting. Would you like to find some time tomorrow to talk about this? Because I feel like there's more of a story here than that. then would be appropriate for my SGA around that, so I'd like to talk to you about this.
Yes, meet with me after the meeting and we can talk about it. Thank you. Okay, next up is Ashley to talk about spring day. Got close screen with guys. So you won't burn it up. So the logo was a little bit small for the sunglasses, so it's a miniature version of it. It's on the side somewhere. So it's a miniature version of it.
Did you originally have shutter shades in the past?
What?
Did you originally have shutter shades in the past? That's in this room.
They were different kind of shades. They were all green.
Shutter shades and lots of
Okay.
And there's some sort of. So this is what I have so far. For the exact, it's not exactly the exact right now. Like the beer and the cake, I haven't heard back from yet, but that is what, as of now, is what I know. Right now we have $3,696 that we have left, mainly because we cut back on t-shirts, to save a lot on that. It was $2,300, but Rick forgot to include the print on the front, so it increased a little bit, but not too much. What else? I've been talking with Health Important Choices about possible events to have on campus, this type of stuff. Does anyone have any questions about it yet?
Is it true clubs cannot hold fundraisers during spring day, like set up a table for a fundraiser on spring day?
Okay.
You can.
Okay, you just can't ask us for money from, what we
for that,
allocated to put on a fundraiser, so you have to use the club money you already have.
Okay.
Do the fundraiser, but you can set up a fundraiser.
Okay, thank you.
You have to get them exactly after.
Yeah, I will.
And as for the club amount of money, I think we only got one requested so far. Did everyone get a request email? I know that I heard one did.
Can I get that resent to me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can get that resent to everyone.
To all of you sometime.
It is due next week at 4 p.m., so please make sure you fill it out.
I have a question. What kind of things can you ask for?
You can ask for anything. You can ask for giant bowling balls and inflatable stuff. You can ask for, I think there's like drum tapes and there's been other things in the past. So really,
Why don't you guys have like old things or walking out,
Yeah.
there's plugged in like pie things.
Yeah.
But they're not requesting.
All right, side shutter, please.
Yeah, they're not requesting. It's fun.
Yeah, so if your club wants to do something, you would get money for that, and you have a table set up, and it's like a way to get something for people to do at spring day and really.
Yeah, you just give us the next day, we bring it from outside.
that would come over out of the club amount, which I have 2,500 set aside for, so.
I don't know what's been done, well, I kind of do know what's been done for food in the past, but can you make sure that there are vegetarian and vegan friendly?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit more. We want to make sure there's at least like 3 different options, not just like a salad and have it run around. We're actually thinking like veggie burgers and one other thing. I don't remember what it is on the top of my head, but.
We got all veggie burgers are vegan, too, so be careful with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll keep you in mind, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
In elected reps, if you all want to request something, just shoot Ashley an email and let her know, because you're allowed to put things on.
Please make sure to get those in.
This is a follow-up from my question about a month and a half ago. About the increased beer budget, increased beer budget, needing an increased beer allotment per student. Is that, have you got all the math of that?
Yeah, it's not something that anyone kind of sets, it's kind of just a suggestion. So what we're suggesting is 4. But so it's roughly a little bit, it's 14 ounces, so I believe a beer is 12 ounces per can. So it's just a little bit more, so it'd be equal to about 4 cans here. So that's what our suggestion is. And we have breakfast. So.
So there are two different sets of papers on each of the tables. One of them is for the student trustee position that hopefully will be filled by a London student next year, because last year it's been held by a Johnson student. And 2 years prior to that was held by a London student. So if you want to apply, follow the directions on here. You need your resume, 3 letters of recommendation from the president, a dean, an instructor, an official copy of your college transcript, and a letter of application that addresses the role of student advocacy. So student trustee actually sits on the board of trustees with the other trustees, and they vote on like the tuition rates. So a student actually gets a vote in that. Any questions? The other set of papers is the Vermont State College Student Association Leadership Scholarship. It's really simple. Applicants must be attending one of the Vermont State Colleges during this year and the next academic year. Applicants must hold a minimum of a 2.5 grade point average. Applicants must complete official VSCSA Leadership Scholarship application, which this is. 2 letters of reference, including contact information, which to document applicant college and community leadership experience. An essay from 250 words to 500 words describing the importance of student leadership. And applications, non-required materials must be typed or WordPress. And all these are submitted to Dave Burr, Dean of Student Life and College Relations, and Johnson State College. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email SGA and I'll respond to you, or Meredith.
And if you want electronic copies, you can send that.
Yep.
My turn. Okay, so one of the things that we've been talking about at VSCSA is when we were in high school, what did our guidance counselors say to us about going to a state college? I know for me personally, I was told it was the lesser of the colleges. I could go to Champlain and worry about a state college like class. So we want to look at that positive / negative information that you've received from them. So it asks questions like, it's asking pretty much how you found out about Linden. I found out about it online. So I'm going to bring that to the VSCSA next meeting, and I was also thinking about kind of giving that to President Joe to look at and see about what we can do for high schools and kind of create a more positive look about state colleges.
The reason why we're doing this, we actually found out a lot of guidance counselors actually bashed the VSC, which is not right, especially CCB, the community college portion of Vermont. Also, we met with the chancellor for about 30 minutes last Friday. Again, to stress what Joe said, 1,000 Vermont students that graduate high school do not go into higher education. He also stressed that he will not close the campus, he will consolidate. So that what that may look like is some of the administration for Linden might be a Johnson. We don't know. Those are all things that will happen in the near future.
They've also talked about like merging marketing teams together instead of having like 5 different marketing teams, just have like one marketing team for the whole VS or Vermont State Colleges.
Also in the future, he will encourage, if a class is not offered here, taking class at another VSC school. Right now, you can do that at CCB. However, CCB does not take any money from that.
Has anything been discussed about how sometimes the tuition at CCB is like, or the, price per credit, is significantly less at CCB than it is here at Wyndham?
I don't think we've really gone into that.
I'm pretty sure it's like $400 less to actually be enrolled in CCB and take a class, rather than be enrolled at Wyndham and then take a CCB class.
It's something to bring up, it's definitely something that we can bring up next week.
Rachel?
Just for point of comparison of what Haley is saying, when I was a student in CCB 2 years ago now, it was like $223 per credit. And that was after they increased it. So you can compare that to what we pay and,
$600 per credit.
yeah.
Yeah, but again, when you take those classes, the money goes to Linden and not CCB.
Yeah, but they're CCB classes, like,
Yeah.
I don't understand.
It's weird, because the professor doesn't, like, get paid for Linden students. Yeah.
Well, some students now are taking Linden courses and they might be taking a course at CCB because it doesn't fit into their schedule or they can't take it for another year, so they wouldn't be able to graduate with that. So they'd be taking a class and paying for it at CCB rather than going to CCB, paying to take the class at CCB, and then having to transfer that credit here. I think logistically it's a lot more work for students to have to do that. So I think that's why.
That's why it's $400 more?
No, that's not why it's $400 more. It's $400 more because you're going through Linden to take the class at CCB, but if you take it at CCB, specifically not through Linden, you have to transfer your credit in. Which right now is a complicated process, which we hopefully find a way to solve that.
I just wanted to bring up the point, maybe you can bring that up in a next meeting or something.
I mean, he's trying to work on restructuring the full program. In case Linden doesn't offer a class, and you can take a class with Johnson or UTC.
So you can just hold off those until the end of the meeting and I'll flip them in. So, thank you guys.
Before we move on, we are going to take a 10-minute break. That means 10 minutes, so if you all go to the Hornet's Nest, that's gonna take you more than 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Yeah, not getting free.
Gave it back to me.
Oh, I get it. And I don't like I get it. Hey, what's up? Yeah, so no, you guys, you got my email, I was at the Kiwanis auction, so yeah. Sweet. I'll take it. Thank you. Where'd you get that? Hi, Chris.
Yeah, I know.
I have two emails here from Carroll, which this is where this thing's open in October, November. That's just that so I'm gonna ask, we did sit down some time ago as I wanted to bring something next to the last SGA meeting before break. And I'm gonna ask if you want to do like a video so I can play it for. So I think we meet up sometimes to maybe go through this process of getting on the agenda with I am. And I'll put together probably put the cost together and how it all be present the idea as of now, because we can't do anything until we get the project. We can't do anything until next semester. So I'm just bringing it to everyone's attention to get their opinions and so on and so on. So I'll put together a little presentation. Yeah, I mean, like, could I ask for the money or not yet?
We don't have that much money.
Exactly. We have the money, just not yet, right? Exactly. That's the thing. We'll do it next year. You mean next semester? Yeah. And that's when he's there. He's not. He's booked. All right now. But he said that was. Good.
Could everyone please take a seat? All right, next discussion and action items?
No.
Erin Rossetti.
No, she
She
passed.
said she didn't have anything for us. So we have discussion action items. And first up is critical criminal justice for a constitution change.
Yeah.
No. What if they put in their constitution that they have complete power of the SGA and we pass it?
Valid point. You know, this kid right here, I can see.
All right, go ahead and present.
Okay. One really small change, probably the easiest thing you guys to talk about for the rest of the night. We want to get the name critical out of our name and just be known as the Criminal Justice Club. That's it.
We have the motion to move to discussion first. And let me call on you. Keep your hands up. Outing.
Motion to discussion.
Okay. Drum.
Call.
You have the second first. Hockey.
Oh, why do you want to change it?
Oh, wow.
We're allowed to have questions here.
The impression that we've been told is that it gives a bad vibe. I mean, yeah.
What kind of bad vibe?
What do you think of when you hear the word critical, Mike?
Yeah, you're like in somebody.
There you go.
Why did you add critical in the beginning? And also, I'm calling motion.
It was a decision made by the president and the faculty advisor. I guess they thought that it sounded good, but we had a vote in the club the other day and we want to get it out of here.
Okay. Call.
Are there any other questions? Nick?
My question is,
If we still have
I'm
to
looking at Article 1, and it just says, hereafter referred to as the club. Just wondering about the wording in Article 1.
I honestly couldn't tell you. That was supposed to be changed after we became a club. So apparently somebody hasn't made the changes. And I don't have any control over that, but I'll make the right people know. Jeremy?
Response to that, actually, I talked with Anthony McCarty about that. That is an expert from their actual constitution, so in the rest of the documents, they're going to, whatever. However, the club, when it says refer to as the club, that's how they're referring to the club name in the rest of the constitution.
So it's like a hereafter referred to as the club.
Yes, so everything was changed.
Are there any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of moving to discussion? All those opposed? All right, if you're an active member of critical criminal justice, could you please leave the room?
Well, please.
Motion to approve their name change of their constitution.
Ashley.
Second.
Sarah? Are all of those in favor of approving their change? Opposed? Motion passes. All right, next up is rugby.
Yeah! Thank you!
I like how ramped up everybody is.
We have sugar, you know.
Good to see you. I want to know how much
Hello.
Hello.
We, as a rugby club, recently went through an exec board change, and we looked through our constitution, and we're like, this doesn't make sense. So we decided to make some changes, quite a few, actually. So hopefully your seatbelts, because we're going in for a long ride. We're looking to replace Article 6.2.5 with the head of the tournament committee, which would be held by the vice president, we're just looking to eliminate committees in general. That would be the vice president, myself, the SGA rep. Vice president oversees the tournament committee. I would be overseeing the fundraising committee. We're just looking to eliminate committees and just kind of delegate the responsibilities on ourselves, and if need, ask people for help. Those are the first few changes. We're also looking to add 6.5.5 to our Constitution, which would be adding the fact that each head captain, which would be our 2 co-captains and our 1 women's captain for now, to be able to work together to decide appropriate times and being able to run practices. This year has not been a great year. We've had a tough time with our coach showing up at practice, and a lot of the time we've actually last minute had to have the captains run the practice and come up with the practice with literally minutes before practice starts. So we're looking to just have that opportunity to enforce, losing words, sorry. We're looking to enforce that as captains being able to co-work with the head coach if the head coach is not available, or if the head coach is no longer available, the head captains will be the ones running the practice. And one of our final changes is in the Constitution. We noticed we were supposed to be holding a 37s tournament. We just recently held our snowball tournament. And you can imagine what a 37s would be when all the snow melts and we play in the mud. We were obliged to do this. We felt if we take it out and still hold the ability to host it, but not be obliged to host it, we feel we should be able to do that. So we just want to be able to take that and change it. Question?
Did you guys copy the AMS's Constitution Committee thing? The different types of committees sounds like the AMS Constitution, and I would like to motion to move to discussion.
No, we did not.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I was gonna second that, but.
Well, caller.
Does anyone have any other questions?
Did you finish with
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I just want to make sure.
Like 6 changes, that was.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of moving to discussion? Opposed? Okay, anyone who's an active member of Rugby, please leave the room. Men don't leave.
Look to approve the Constitution changes.
SPJ.
I'm gonna second Andrew's motion.
All right, Megan.
Motion. Not a motion.
One is Andrew, two, I call.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the Constitution changes? Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Next up, we have lifelong disbandment. As per our SGA Constitution, they have reached 5 absences, which means disbandment from SGA. Next.
I just want to say I want to be disbanded anyways, and I motion that we.
Yes.
Okay.
Second. Acapella, right? Sorry. Okay. Should I? Yes. Okay.
Sorry. Did they actually ever do like what they came promised? Because they promised like students would be able to go out for like really inexpensive amount of money and like learn how to fly and like.
I know some of their very active members at least went, I don't know if they use club money or their own money for that, but very active
I
members.
just wanted to like research.
Yes.
So they came into some really big like budgeting issues with, like their leadership, their advisor, and the person they're working with to do it, and it just didn't take off the ground.
Oh, that's my
Alright, second, please.
But I will mention this, right now, they are working to really, they're working to get rid of their issues and start again. They have a lot of stuff that they did wrong and they're working to correct it. So.
I just wanted to.
Yeah, they requested last year at the end of the year, they requested a good amount of money and they got it, but then they didn't carry over to this year, so I think that was part of the, like, because it wasn't a budget, it was a fundraising, it was just a funding request, so they lost, not lost, but it went back to them.
Megan?
I just want to make a comment that I think it's been, which is looking like they will. I will no longer have to confuse the word flight with flight.
They're also going to be changing the name, that was one of the biggest things. It's actually really, I won't really.
Alright, so we have a motion and a second.
Call? No, it's even better.
Twilight,
Oh.
all those in favor of disbanding flight? Opposed, motion passes. You don't clap, it's kind of sad to disband from. Alright, so we added, 2 discussion action items. One can we do with students to help with the deficit. So this is a time for us to just brainstorm anything. I wrote down a couple things that were brought up, like creating a retention committee. Okay, so I'm gonna get back on topic. We talked about creating a retention committee where we have students, faculty, and staff on a committee to focus on what in terms we can do to promote retention. I also wrote down what Dylan said about creating a small committee or a program to send students out to high schools, wherever, and bring students on campus to show them different programs that they might be interested in.
Can I speak on that real quick? Drew and I had already talked about that. And we're just going to all get together. If you guys want to, we can either hang out with that summer talk about it, which is there's going to be a bunch of us. I talked to them to do that. And or we can just sneak into like the program room. And how about this? I'll get the SGA email list from you, and I'll send you email and forward it out, and we can all work on it and we meet together.
Okay.
Just to create a group, for like high school outreach.
Okay. I will make a note. Just give me a second to the other things we want to talk about.
I can make sure that it's represented.
Rachel.
Just quickly going back to what I was asking President Joe, if anyone is interested in trying to get together and coordinate, like not protest necessarily, but just student activism and trying to get more involved with the state and at least not get our funding retreat even more, like, I think that's worthwhile trying to do. We all love to come to SGA and complain, so how about we go to Montpelier and complain? I think that that's worthwhile.
So another thing that the chancellor said, he said flat out that the state negotiation will probably never change regardless of the launch. Right now, Act 140, which basically is for more state corporations for non-state colleges, and that kind of a roadblock in like doing for them, because there's some language in it that's not correct. I mean, some say use if the state of Montana legalizes marijuana, use that tax for colleges. However, the chancellor did say you would never go for that. So, yeah. The state of Montana would never give us more on there.
Megan? So all these committees are great ideas, but, how about a club? Like, I don't know, the Vermont Student Union? You could totally bring that back as a club. It's an organization that's at other colleges, so we'd be working with more than just the state on policy services.
And we encourage that, and we encourage all of you to reach out and get more students who are very active and want to be active, but don't really know where the venue is for that. So I encourage all of you to outreach to those people and say, hey, we want to do this as a student government, and just as students in general who really care about what's happening. Is there any?
Yes.
For all 4 years, and a program like track and field is inexpensive to start up, and we already have one of the best cross-country programs in the Northeast that I'm sure a lot of the runners want to run track and field in the spring.
Do we still have track and field?
No, they were disbanded because they went over their 5-minute limit. But if it becomes an official sport on the college campus, there are people who want to participate. But for some reason, their club just didn't work out being able to have someone here.
Well, they have a request for the next meeting to get re-added as a club.
Oh, so it's hard to be a club on this campus. Can I speak to that a little bit?
Yeah.
Can I speak to how hard it is to be a club and how proud I am of all of our clubs that we have on campus? Because like, I don't know, I dabbled in being a club and like kind of starting a new club, and it's difficult and it's hard to get member involvement, and it's hard to get people who are committed and like really willing and to put their 100% effort in. I'm proud of the weightlifting club and all of our other new clubs on campus right now, because like they're doing it and like it's hard, and I you know, I think we need to like make it more streamlined and less difficult for clubs to be an entity on this campus. Because there's a lot of cool ideas running around, but like, you know, we are college students.
What do you mean by streamlining?
Sorry?
What do you mean by streamlining?
I don't, like, I really wouldn't know, and I kind of want to start thinking about it. But like, we're so busy, we're so like, we have so many other things going on with classes and whatnot, and like, I mean, with the swim club, that's what basically led to our demise. So I was immensely busy, Steph was immensely busy, and there was not really any individual who was as invested in the club as me and Steph. So it was hard. I don't know how to do it, and like maybe it's a conversation we should start, but like, I just want to bring that up.
One thing I had, which I talked to a couple other people, student workers in the South office and a few others about having a parking fee on campus. And I know what Joe said, if every student on this campus had a car and wanted to have a car on campus and paid a fee, it wouldn't pay for one position. A parking.
I was talking about clubs.
I know, we switched back to the original topic.
I'm sorry. I thought you were
But I want to encourage every single one of you to talk to as many students as you know that have a car on campus or are commuters, and talk about how they feel about paying a small fee, whether it's $20 or $30 per year, or even $10 per year, about how they would feel about having their car on campus and paying just a little bit towards that, to know that it's going to benefit the college as a whole and benefit their education. So I want all of you to go out and talk to anyone you know that drives a car and keeps one on campus, and see how they feel about that. Because I know myself, if I knew it was going to add another professor to the English department, we're losing 2 this year and we're only gaining back 1. And I would love to get feedback because we're a small program as it is anyway, and there's not a lot of full-time faculty and stuff. So yeah, if my $10 is gonna go towards bettering my education in some way or bettering another students because their program is kind of suffering a little bit from a lack of staff, I'll give $10 to help in any way. And I mean, if I can afford a car, I can afford an extra $10 to keep my car on campus. So that's where that idea for me came from, actually.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like I'm a community student, like I work around here. And if it was to help with the college and for a year, for like $10 for a whole year, like that's not horrible. And I think that that's definitely something that can be thought more of because it definitely it's a pretty good idea. And when I was in high school, we were supposed to pay $25 to park our cars in this like parking lot because we got a huge high school. So I think it's a good idea.
Kelly?
And I was like kind of, because I saw some things on Facebook about adding the parking pass, and I was thinking about it today, and like there's a lot of students on this campus who aren't necessarily full-time students, and they aren't necessarily here 5 days a week. They're only here, they're only taking 1 or 2 classes. There's also a lot of old seniors or people who are older that are taking just 1 or 2, auditing on a couple of classes, and I can't see a $50, like, that's the number they were throwing around, and that's what was in my head. I can't see someone like that, someone commuting, someone, like, I can't see that, them paying $50 for cars. So I was thinking maybe, like, people who live on campus would only have to pay, but then it's the commuter, I'm like, I don't.
Well, I want to encourage you all to have those conversations with those people and say, hey, I know you're only on campus once a week. How would you feel about paying a parking fee? What number, like what amount would you be comfortable paying if you knew or it was going to help your education?
Yeah.
So just having those conversations with those people, because I think it's really important to get their input and how they feel, because speculating, if someone was to come on campus, maybe I wouldn't be comfortable with it, but maybe someone else would.
Yeah.
So just making sure we're having those conversations with those students. Sarah?
I agree with you about the on-campus thing, mostly because as a commuter, sometimes it's a struggle to even find parking. And if I'm paying like $50 or whatever for parking, I want to be like guaranteed that I can get a parking spot in my upper rail or like near the school. Because if our overflow parking is the parking Stonehenge, I don't want to pay money for the parking Stonehenge and like walk through all of campus, which may better be lazy, but you know what I mean?
No.
And students don't want to pay for the parking Stonehenge.
They're gonna find that building.
Nick?
I actually think the parking pass thing would be better off being an optional thing, like maybe you could add benefits to it, like maybe call it a premium parking pass where you park whoever parking lot you want on campus, but I don't see it going well if you just make it something that people have to do.
Let me make note of that. Okay, Michael?
All right, so I understand that you guys don't want to start charging for parking, everything. Well, I was just moving forward into my day of different schools. I brought this up with some of my friends from different colleges in the neighborhood, that building. They pay $100 for parking, not free parking. If you have 1,100 people, times that by $100, that's $110,000 for the school. That's 3 part-time jobs that you just hired that time. So think about that number. And that's just 1,100 students.
Okay, wait, let's see.
Well, just bouncing off of Sarah Murphy's comment about how, like, she wants to be guaranteed parking in Upper Vale if she pays X amount of dollars. And maybe this is going too in depth into this, but like, maybe instead of having one set parking permit, we have like different levels, like a green level can park in Stonehenge and Lower Vale, and that's it. And then like a blue parking pass can park in all parking lots at any time necessary. and they'll make it a little restrictive, and you pay like a little more to gain more access. Like maybe you would pay more to gain all access to the parking lot, but, and maybe that's going to be up in it right now, but just an idea.
I think it's a good idea. And I'll be writing all of these down. And if we have a lot, I'm going to expect some of you to take on the responsibility of going and talking to people about the feasibility and if this is an idea that we could actually do. Ski and run.
I was just confused why I thought Joe just said that if we were to charge every student $50 for parking, it would not make a very big difference as far as the staff changes and all that. So I was just confused as to why.
Even if it doesn't make a very big difference, every little bit counts. Sometimes Joe gets donations from someone who says, hey, I really want to help the college, here's $20, that's all I can afford to give you. And that $20 can go towards anything.
Like, where would the money from parking go to?
It could just like go to pay for like the parking stickers themselves, or it's almost like a public, like a campus safety fee. Instead, it could pay for like, it costs a lot of money to make the IDs that everyone has, especially now that we have the proximity ones for the residence halls. So it could pay for like extra camera, like stuff like that. So it might not actually save a job, like you said, but it could better student experience here. Yeah,
That's. Dylan, do you still have something? You had to say that. Okay, go ahead.
So I kind of want to reiterate something we said at last meeting. We had talked about having at least like open SGA meetings during like the 12:30 to 1:30 times, and also opening that up so there wasn't classes during 12:30 to 1:30. I think that would also be very comfortable to get more people involved. And it would make it easier to be involved as well, but there more people involved.
So going off of that, would that be something that people would like to see happen during the remainder of this year?
Well, I think it should happen in fall.
Okay, we actually talked about that during Constitution Committee, and we, okay, we talked about that during Constitution Committee, and we have in our Constitution that the meeting time can change, and the executive board can change meeting time at any point, but they have to take into consideration that it has pretty much always been Wednesdays at 8 p.m. So we left that open for interpretation, had that discussion, talked to Meredith about that and said, this is a great idea. And it's something we don't want to necessarily make a constitutional stipulation on, but we want to encourage people to do that because it does make us much more accessible, especially to non-traditional students who can't be here late at night, commuters who during the winter don't want to risk driving home with icy roads, or people who are just generally busy this late at night and can't come or can't make it because it doesn't fit with their schedule. So we're really encouraging people to access that time. So thank you for bringing that up.
So mine's a slight backtrack to the parking fee. I think we really need to start thinking more outside the box instead of charging our students more money to come here when we're already paying $20,000 to $50,000. Like, let's realistically think of different ways we can bring more money to the college, whether it be us fundraising for the college and donating the money to the college, or some other idea. Because if we're just gonna keep tacking bills on the students, why don't we just increase the tuition again? Let's put it up 10% instead of 3%. So I think we really wanna start looking outside the box instead of putting more weight on students who already are clinching to each penny and can't go here because they run out of money, which happens every year.
Critic.
My remark was, not bad, just said that, but there's nothing to gain from thinking of more creative ways to make one's value fellow students. And we need to think more about as a rapid restructuring. Parking burdens won't save jobs, won't save students, won't save classes. And, I mean, I know if I may say so, this represents the smartest people on campus. And You're welcome. But, to improve this year, you know, we're we can do this.
Outing.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say that, Joe was saying that a lot of people didn't attend the budget meetings, or someone brought it up, but there's a select few people who were there. Most of the people are in this room and have already been voicing their opinions. So I think a way to get even more students is for all of us to go to our clubs and present what Joe said tonight and get some feedback from them on ideas that they have that Joe probably hasn't heard, because the majority of them probably haven't been to those meetings. So rather than us just kind of keep tossing the same ideas around, try to get fresh ideas from people who haven't been voicing their opinions yet. So I think it's the responsibility of all of us to go to our club at our next meeting and talk about what Joe said tonight, talk about the things that we've had, and try to encourage them to give new ideas to us, then for us to kind of collectively put them together and present to Joe.
And if anyone needs a refresher, it'll be on next.
Okay, so I just had a really close friend of mine. She does a marathon every year. They've done it like 4 years in a row. This year they rose like $630,000, and they basically stay up for several days, and it's a fundraiser event, and people just earn the community donate money. What if we did something like that? Because I feel like us as a college, in the VSC system, we could really, if we did well enough, we could hit a huge demographic. You know, I mean, look at how widespread our student body is. It could be that easy where we just answer phones all night, or dance or whatever. You know, we could have a lot of fun. I mean, Misa could put on a bunch of bands and it could be a thing. You know what I mean? It could be a giant talent show. And, people donate money to each talent, and whoever raises the most money is the winner of the talent show. You know, it could be some really fun, creative thing.
LCO. I would just like to say, going back to rescheduling SGA meetings for the remainder of this year, please keep in mind that lunch block classes happen to good people sometimes. And just speaking from my club personally, as like the principal rep, if you guys did switch it this year, there's a good chance my club would disband.
If we were to do meetings in the afternoon this year at all, anyone who had a class would be excused. If they couldn't find someone who could make it within that notice, you would all be excused because you're here to do the students first, and we respect that. So if we were to.
I was also just thinking, with our film production and multimedia storytelling majors, why not have students go on Kickstarter and try to do some kind of like short film projects or something, and say, you know, the overflow or like any remainder of the money would go to our college, and try to do fundraisers like that that are displaying all of the experiential learning we get.
Coffee.
So I'm bringing up a point, it's something false completely, but I think pretty much bullshit that we have to pay $75 for a graduation fee. That needs to be changed. We're already paying $33,000 a year or so. Let's just tack on another 1% of tuition costs for seniors, graduating.
Erin? I just want to address that. So, for those of you that weren't aware, there are various different committees that students, faculty, staff would be on leading up to some of the budget changes, and one of those that I was on was related to systems and processes, and that was one of the things we tackled. It is tackling that discovered that that's actually a board of trustees decision, and that was something that they put in place, so it's not something that Linden in and of itself can change. And it certainly could go to the board of trustees, and it's one of their recommendations that we make to Joe the change that will happen. Because of all of the feedback that comes regularly from students in the situation where either it's graduating and all of a sudden $25 and that's in the works and proposed, and we don't believe that the board will review that.
And to add on to that, they actually changed how it was, because it used to be that your bill would get tacked on like right before graduation, and then you'd be put on financial hold. So they actually like pre-put it on your bill before you get the refund check in order to get rid of that issue, because a lot of people would be like, why am I in financial hold when I'm about to graduate in 3 weeks? So they did work on that last year, and that's why that changed for this year. So that is a positive to take from that. But yeah, it does suck. I don't want to say that.
Haley.
So when all of these kind of budgeting issues first came about, and we started to hear some of the changes that were going to be happening with, say, the peer leading program, and which is the peer leading program, not the peer program, just for future reference. That kind of irks me a little bit, but anyways. I talked to my mother, I kind of vented to my mother, and she said to me, Haley, why are you concerned about all these issues? This doesn't involve you. You need to focus on your classes. This is not like your thing. You need to let the college do its thing and deal with its financial issues, and you need to not worry about them. Well, and I kind of got really mad at her, and I kind of hung up on her because I hung up on my own mother. I hung up on my own mother. Anyways, because it's not the college's issue. It's not Jonathan Davis and President Joe and whoever else's issue. It's our issue. This is our institution. This is the one day you're gonna put a little onesie on your child that says Linden State College, and you're gonna post that child around because it's wearing a Linden State College onesie because it's your own motto. And it's where you got your footing to be the professional that you're gonna be. So I may not have any ideas in my head right now, but I think that we need to work as a student body our hardest to come up with awesome ideas to help our college and help make this institution the best institution it can be. And then I called my mother back and I said I'm sorry.
And that's why I think it's so important, what all of your jobs are as sitting in this room, is to go to students who don't go to Joe, or don't go to JD, or don't go to any administration or faculty and staff and say, hey, I think the college should be doing this. I think everyone needs to reach out to people that they don't typically talk to, and I know, like, for me, sometimes that's intimidating, even though 2 years I've been talking to people I don't talk to on a regular basis. It's still intimidating for me, because what if I say something and they can't stand who I am because of one thing I said to them, because I had an idea and I want to get their opinion and they don't agree. But I think it's really important to say, hey, we care as a student government. And say, hey, we want to know what you think this college can do for you and how we can fix this problem and make your education better. And I think that's a role that we need to start making happen more proactively. And I congratulate all of you for everything that you've done throughout the semester and talking to your clubs and talking to your constituents. But I think we need to be more proactive about doing things like that as the year goes along, especially with the increasing deficit that we're going to be handling in the next year. Megan.
Oh, me, okay. Yeah. The other Megan's not here tonight, okay. Well, Dylan already brought up the events, but before I could even say it, what my idea was we could plan events with alumni and hospital donators that we could invite them to the college and throw a music festival or an art show or the talent show idea or a fun-thon on the radio station or something. We can focus internally all we want, but we really need to be reaching out. We need to harass the alumni, we need to find possible donators. So maybe we can get Joe's contact book and just invite everyone in that to a festival or something.
All right, Nick.
I was gonna ask where in the Constitution it said you changed the meeting times, because I didn't see that at all. Other than that,
I will find that for you.
I have a lot of questions about the Constitution changes.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. I couldn't answer.
All right, side chatter, please. What was the other point you had, Nick?
It was more about like where the Constitution doesn't say you can change the meeting times.
Did you have anything else?
The other thing was I wanted to bounce off the Kickstarter idea because I like that one.
What?
I like the Kickstarter idea. I was just gonna mention that I like it.
After Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Websites like Kickstarter with only actually take a small percentage of your earnings, so take that into account if you want to start one.
Also, work response to that.
You're next on the list anyway.
Okay, well, in the call, I know that the tennis team has doing a GoFundMe, and we literally have had $0 for the past 3 months. Wow, it's really hard. It's not easy. It's like not easy thing. It's like you see these groups and they're like, yeah, we're doing really good, look at us, but like they must have the most incredible connections ever because I tried the connections of page of all of these women that want to help other women page that I'm connected to that love helping each other and literally none of them help me. You know, like it's so difficult, and yes, you can share it, and you can do anything, but with you, it's not under your control. Like you need, like, all of these are great ideas, and but our only issue is that we actually need to get them time. Like we have to choose one and go one at a time. We can't do all of them at once because we might not have enough people to work on all of them.
I disagree with that a little bit. I think it is unrealistic for absolutely everything we come up with tonight to implement, but saying as a whole, we're gonna do this one thing. It would be great to do something together fully as an SGA, but to say, hey, elected representatives, what are you really passionate about out of everything we came up tonight? Okay, all of you collectively need to tackle this and say, hey, these clubs, as representatives of the student government, you should be addressing this issue and breaking ourselves off into groups of representatives and saying, this is what each group is going to tackle, and we're going to talk about this in the next SGA meeting and what we've come up with. So I think there are multiple things that we can tackle, not everything, but I think we can take on more than one thing and say, hey, this idea is working, or hey, we tried figuring out this idea, but it doesn't look like it's going to be plausible, but we want to keep it for something for the future.
Direct response?
Yeah.
As a team last year, we actually created a GoFundMe page and we were raising money on it. Institutional advancement told us to take it down because we have the right to do it, to use the school logos to raise money. There's a problem with using like sites like GoFundMe to raise money for the school because the school doesn't vote with it.
Well, on a side note, Nick, to your answer, the SGA will meet bi-weekly on a day and time designated by the executive board and advisors. Club representatives have designated Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m., which must be taken into consideration whenever a new meeting time is discussed.
And so when we talked about this during Constitution Committee, we don't want to say, okay, now all of our meeting times are going to be 12:30 to 1:30 during that free block. But we think it would be nice to stagger them to say, this meeting we're going to meet at 8 p.m. Next meeting time, we're going to meet at this 1 hour block where we're not going to go over that hour. We're only going to meet within that hour time to make sure everyone can stay for the full duration. So, but we want to leave that up to the executive board and to the student government as a whole to make that decision for next year and what they see is going to work and maybe go for a trial period with it. I'll add to the list. Weightlifting.
I was just wondering where we were in the agenda.
After this, we are going to go over the Constitution changes and then we have other business in the rest of the final thing.
Carry on.
Lisa.
Yeah, I think as clubs, we need to think about what we can do to use, our own in-house resources as clubs to try and do things that, that really put the school on the map and try and use those resources, Charging for parking passes are only going to do so much, and in reality today, is it actually a value proposition for students would actually want to go here? Probably not if that's but I think it's all about getting back to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is enrollment. And I understand we need to worry about the students we have here and retaining those students, and that's important. But at the same time, what can we do to focus on doing things as clubs that can put the college on the map and increase enrollment at the same time?
That's
I just wanted to say, I've done staggered meetings before, that really screwed with people, made things awfully complicated, and it was like the worst month I've ever had.
Ian,
I just want to add on to what you were saying about, kind of keeping people here for, the 4 years, instead of them leaving early. As clubs, if we all were to do, some community enriching type things, like more like outdoor musical performances, more like why not do like art exhibits outside in the secure years? Like there's so much talent at the school, like as clubs, that we could, I guess, kind of enrich the community a little bit and not make people want to stay another 1 year.
Hockey?
Can I motion to move on?
Bailey? Motion. Lan? All those in favor of moving on? Opposed?
Can I just? No, okay, never mind.
I'm gonna say a couple things. So this isn't just something that we just talked about tonight and that we do report. For the next meeting, I expect all clubs to talk, all club representatives to talk with their clubs to see something that they could plausibly do in the future, whether it's this year, next year, or years later, like many years later, what their clubs can do to help the college. Just discuss the idea with your club and say, my club couldn't think of anything, but we're still considering it. Or we want to play this event and do this, but we need some help. But I expect all of you to come back and say, hey, talk to my club and this is what I did. And we'll cover that during club and committee updates. But I expect all club representatives to talk to their clubs about what they can do for the college. And then I am personally going to make a meeting with George Hacking to talk about the possibility of having parking pass privileges. Like say commuter students, if they pay $50, they have a guaranteed spot that they can park in Upper Vale or Lower Vale. So they have a guaranteed spot and they don't have to go over to Stonehenge. About making that a possibility and seeing if that's plausible. I mean, it raises money for the college, and then if you're a commuter, great for you, if you pay $50 and now you can park wherever you want in Upper Vale, you have a guaranteed spot. Does anyone have anything they want to specifically see the student government address out of anything that was brought up? Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Constitution changes. Yay! So you get to hear me talk some more. You'll be sick of my voice by the end of the night. Okay, so we only put in red, or what is struck out, is what the changes were. So we heavily took into consideration how we limit people that can run for the executive board or for positions. Because there are people who are out there that are great that don't meet these requirements. So to each position, we added the president has to have 1 full year of experience in order to be elected or by appeal. So there will be an appeal process where if you've only been in SGA for a certain number of months and not the whole academic year, you can go to Meredith and say, hey, I would like to appeal this decision. I believe that I'm completely competent in being able to hold presidency, even though I haven't been here for a full year. Same for vice president, financial controller, administrative vice president, and also for the GPA requirement as well. Because we see that the GPA doesn't define who you are, but we don't want people who just don't care about their academics to come take on something else that they might not be able to handle and could make them suffer in the long run. We want to look out for people and say, you do have a priority, but if this is just something that you're struggling with and it's just a GPA and you really are working hard and you can manage both, we want to give you that option to say, hey, I'm really a go-getter, I can handle both, and I want to do this. So we want to instate that appeal process for the GPA as well. And then we added executive board members shall not hold any other executive positions in any SGA approved clubs or organizations. Because holding a second position, 1, can be overwhelming, and 2, presents a conflict of interest, especially in clubs. Okay. So this is under the presidential duties. shall become an autumn member of the VSCSA, unless unable to fulfill that duty. This year, I'm not able to fulfill that duty, so instead of me, Joe is. Constitutionally, I'm supposed to, but it's just not feasible for me. I have to have 2 dogs in order to pay for everything I need to pay for. And I'm also doing this, so I just don't have that time. So Joe has taken that position for me, and they've always said, we want your seats to be filled, and we want it to be by people who care. So we put people who care and who can do it. And then we changed, shall meet with the SGA advisor once per academic week. It gave us a time limit, and it said 1 hour per academic week. But sometimes I don't have an hour worth of conversation to have with Meredith. Sometimes it's like, things are going great, this is what we plan on doing, this is where we're at. And sometimes those conversations last 15, 20, half an hour, but not necessarily a full hour. So we just wanted to take out that time constraint. And also with the executive board. Sometimes our executive meetings don't last that long because we don't have a lot to tackle within one particular week. And then must make every effort to attend the state of college address, budget addresses, college-wide retreat. We added the college-wide retreat in there because it was only implicated and it wasn't clearly stated that they were, and the college-wide retreat is a really important event to attend. So we wanted to make sure that was clearly stated. Okay, and then this is the same under the executive vice president, meet once per academic week with the advisor, meet once per academic week with the executive board, and just adding in the college-wide retreat for that position as well. So this is under financial controller, shall compile the final budget of all clubs and organizations and present it to the SGA. Can you open that up in our actual constitution? What did we mean by this? Remind me. Why did we strike out for approval? Okay, Megan.
You wanted it to be just a presentation. The clubs can still vote to contest it. It's just that we don't have to vote on it during the meeting, it's just presented.
Yeah, okay, now it's fully coming back. And the reason for that is because the elected representative it's pretty much the same process. We just don't vote on it. And then the financial controller meets with the advisor once per academic week. Is expected to go to the college-wide retreat, and then meets with the executive board once per academic week.
This is the.
Okay. So just so you can read it better, actually put in the original line and then it crossed out. So this is for administrative vice president. We don't think that they should be required to sit on a college-wide committee because that's actually a very, very intensive job that Joe has right now. And he does a lot. So to add that to his responsibilities, we see can be too much. Anyone can sit in on a committee or ask to be put on a committee, and if they choose to, then by all means we want them to, but we don't want to make it a requirement on them. Especially since Joe's going to VSCSA, it doesn't really allow him much time to sit on an extra committee. And then shall meet with a financial controller once per academic week. We wanted to take that out because during our executive board meetings, they discuss what they need to discuss regarding financials. So it was just something added that didn't need to be because those discussions were already happening in the executive board meetings. And then meet with the executive board advisor at least once per academic cycle or once per meeting cycle, adding in the college-wide retreat, and then added in shall maintain website with minutes and agendas to ensure that content is current. So it'll be part of the administrative vice president's duty to help maintain the website that we're trying to work through problems with right now. Okay, and then meet with the executive once per academic cycle and meet with, shall meet with it? Oh, this is under Meredith's job, the advisor. We just changed the time limit to once per this meeting cycle. Okay. The director of student life isn't something we're voting on, it's just the title that's changed. It used to say the the Dean of Students, I believe.
Yeah.
But now it's the Director of Student Life, which right now is Erin. But the crossed out part, they will receive a scholarship. A presentation or recommendation will be presented to the SGA regular business meeting. This is regarding compensation. So say one of us asks for compensation, it will be left up to Meredith and Erin at this point, or anyone who feels what their roles are. And this is basically because in my history here, every year I've sat in SGA, it has become a personal bias. How much do we like this person? Okay, well, we're only gonna give them X amount. I watched, for all of you who know, Julie Austin get torn down because she said one thing 2 years prior. And people were like, okay, yeah, we don't like her, we're not gonna give her as much as the rest of people. So it's always been very, very personal. I feel confident that this year, if people ask for compensation, it's not gonna be that way, because I have a lot of trust that people are gonna be unbiased about how much they like or don't like the person, that they're gonna base it on their job. But we basically want to project it for the future and say, okay, these are people who work closely with the executive board, see what the elected representatives do and how much effort and work they put in, so they can determine rather than it being a bias by students, just because it's been kind of a faulted process in the past.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, and then we struck out number 4, which says the body of the SGA can motion to accept the recommendation or determine the dollar value. So we just struck that portion out because it corresponded with the previous statement. Okay. What section is this on? Is this for the cabinet?
Yeah, cabinet.
Okay, so these positions shall be appointed by the SGA executive board. The reason why we struck out with 2/3 approval of the SGA at the start of the academic year is because typically, like for Drew's position specifically, is the only person we pick, which is the Vice President of Communications. And so we typically have people come forward and say, hey, I'm really interested in this position, or we reach out to people who we think would be interested and say, are you interested in this? This is what you would be doing. So basically, it would be up to the executive board to decide who would be working in the cabinet with the executive vice president. But we would accept nominations from people to say, come and say, hey, we think this person would be great. I want you to contact them.
Also, the other 2 positions, we have no actual control over, CAB elects CAB and SAC elects SAC. So,
yeah.
So, I'm thinking back to the beginning of the year. It would be like somebody say, oh, I nominate Haley, and then Haley gets up and then doesn't really want a position, and then.
Right.
yeah.
So we would, what I expect the executive board to do in the future is to maybe during the first meeting of the year, go to the club and say, hey, I want you to think about someone to nominate for the Vice President of Communications. If you have any nominations, send them to us so we can reach out to those people and let them know that they've been nominated and people want them to hold this position. So we expect the executive board to do that in the future so they can get a bigger candidate pool or have someone come to them and say, hey, I really want to do this, I'm really interested. So for them to be appointed by the executive board. And then the position shall be as followed. SGA Representative Campus Activities Board. It was worded as Vice President of Campus Activities, and that was really confusing one for me. And it's not their Vice President, it's their Student Government Association representative, so we just wanted to clarify that. So it was consistent with their position and in our Constitution. Okay. The Vice President of Communications must have at least 1 semester of SGA experience or biennial. So we're not limiting people who maybe haven't been in SGA, but they really want to take on a role that requires more, and they think they're very capable of it and going through the process. And the same thing with the GPA requirement for that position as well, having an appeal. And then we struck out, shall plan, organize, and run SGA town hall meetings, which may be held electronically in collaboration with elected representatives. So this is taking up their responsibility to organize the town hall for the representatives. So they're not responsible for something that's not really part of their duty because they're not a class representative, and that shouldn't be on them. Okay. So this is under elected representatives, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Shall be required to assist in the facilitation of at least 2 town hall /caucuses per academic year. This is something that we talked to Erin about heavily, and we think it's a great responsibility to add to the elected representatives to make sure that people are talking to their constituents and that people have ample opportunity to come express their concerns to the people that represent them. So shall be required to hold caucuses every other week to speak with their constituents. If the representative fails to hold three of their caucuses, the representative loses their voting rights for the remainder of the semester. Missing 3 caucuses basically means half the semester you didn't do it. So you lose your voting rights for that semester because you haven't been reaching out to your constituents and the people you're supposed to represent.
And the plan for this is to have like a regular room set up for the elected reps. So on an off SGA Wednesday, you can just go there, no one shows up, then you leave. That kind of idea.
Okay.
But it would happen every other week. That way you actually are talking to your constituents. I'm saying you guys don't, but that it actually puts that standard in place for you guys.
Yeah. I think it's a really good idea. I think it takes what I do on a daily basis and makes it very, very formal. And like a lot of times, like the interactions that I have with people are just like, hey, people of the Weather Center, or hey, people of like wherever, in whatever classes I'm in. So I kind of like it, but I also kind of think that it's gonna.
Well, some people like that more formal setting of saying, okay, well, you're my representative and this is what I have to say about what I think should be done. And you're gonna reach a different crowd of people than who you interact with on a daily basis. There are gonna be some people who don't feel comfortable going to the room and talking to a representative in front of a bunch of people.
And like I said, like if someone doesn't show up, we're not going to expect you to sit there for an hour with no one there.
We expect you to sit there for a reasonable amount of time. 10 minutes passes by and you don't have anyone, it's okay to leave. But if you sit there for 2 minutes and say, okay, I've sat here for 2 minutes, I've done my job, that's not really acceptable. But we expect people to work with Meredith, reserve a room for the entire semester for a certain time slot that fits the representative's schedule, so they can be there. You can bring your homework if you want to sit and wait in the room the entire time. Do what you need to do. Yes.
Okay, so, I don't know how to do this. Can we just act by feelings? Like, I kind of feel what Haley's saying. Some of us don't really, it's just not a realistic thing. But what I really wanted to say is, for those people who have meetings, and like my agenda, we have a slot the SGA rest.
This is for just us, not.
Yeah, it's not for the club. No, this is
I was like, this is ridiculous.
Clubs already have a meeting time and they have a scheduled time to talk with their clubs, so this is just under the elected representatives.
No, I think there should be a live field though, because
Well, we're putting more responsibility on the elected representatives, which we think is a fair responsibility. They're supposed to be making sure they are reaching out to their constituents, and this is just saying constitutionally, you have to do this or you don't have a right to vote because you're not making that effort. So if you're not making that effort, why should you be voting for your constituents if you're not trying? So that's why it's in there. And then number 3, if a club representative fails to maintain a current registration with the executive board, then the SGA executive board shall make a recommendation for action to the SGA. This must be passed by 2/3 majority in order to take effect. We don't keep a current registration of club roster. So how many people do you have in your club? Who are your active members? That's something we don't really see as necessary. Sometimes clubs struggle a little bit to keep membership, but they are really trying and they're still doing great things. So we don't want to punish them because people just aren't interested during this time frame. We want to give clubs a chance and really promote them. You're still doing great. You're still putting on events. You're really trying to reach out to people. So we admire that. If the executive board sees that, there is a serious problem in saying, hey, you really need to get your stuff together. You don't have involvement. You're not doing anything. You're not participating. Then the executive board should be having that conversation with that particular club. So we took out having to maintain a roster with the executive board.
We don't really need to know your Facebook like account.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna try to read this. I'm gonna move my mic down here so I can. Okay, so shall be appointed to the ad hoc committees to aid in the administrative functions of the SGA by the SGA executive board. So at the beginning of the year, when I passed around that committee worksheet or committee sign-up sheet, the executive board went and picked people that they thought suited that position. When people dropped out, we submitted another person saying, okay, this person's no longer here, this person was also interested. So it's just stating that the SGA executive board is making those decisions, because it just says, it doesn't say.
It's just clarifications, it already happens, like that's what we do.
It's just making it clear who's making that decision and what the process is. And then number 6, will at the beginning of the year, elect one representative to the VSCSA. The second and third members of the VSCSA shall be any 2 members of the executive board. That number is supposed to be 2. We don't have 5 members of our executive board unless you include Meredith. But originally it said the SGA president and executive vice. So basically, whoever could physically fit this in their schedule, with allowing them a reasonable amount of time to do whatever else they absolutely need to do. Okay. And then 7, we'll set goals at the start of the academic year for the new SGA to work on over the course of the year, concurrent to the student concerns and needs. And we changed that to be presented at every other meeting. So Matt made a goal of opening a student pantry this year. And we have that, and it's good. I don't think we've had any requests yet. If we did, then I don't know. But we have it up and running, and we have it in place for students. My goal for the year was to have the bathrooms, and I've kept you, well, the gender neutral bathrooms, and I've kept you updated as much as I can. But we really want to keep that going for the executive board and say, you're making these goals, and for also representatives. Say, okay, we have this goals for students, or we have this goals for ourselves to accomplish this as a student government. And then just to keep the SGA updated on the progress. And then under number 9, has the ability to allocate the general fund money to individuals, events, and or activities to benefit the student body. And we added in any requests $1,000 and under may be allocated by the SGA executive board. What we saw as a great benefit of what JD was able to do with the 10%, we thought it would be great for the executive board to be able to do the same. Because having a smaller committee or even one person allocating money, like say Assist wants to go and help with something, and they don't have time to make it to an SGA meeting because it just happened, they have this opportunity to go, but it'll be too late by the time they come to the SGA meeting. The executive board will have the ability up to $1,000, which we think is a very significant amount, $1,000. So we saw the benefit of that, and we want to keep projecting that. But if it's something that the SGA executive board thinks that the entire student government should be discussing, then we expect them to bring that to the meeting. If it's something that's much more serious than just saying, oh, is this going on a trip to help a bunch of people? That's something I think all students can agree that's great. But if it's something that may be controversial, something they've heard mixed reviews, or something that they don't feel comfortable making the decision on, we expect them to bring it to the SGA meeting.
Well, it doesn't say anything about getting a report about this, so would we be told what the money is spent on if it does get requested?
Yes, transparency would be complete to this, and also the reason why, one of the big reasons this got brought up was the Model UN situation and us being able to not help while they were stuck in, where were they, Massachusetts?
Boston.
So that's kind of like a big aspect to why this is really important, is so when they call and they say, well, we're stuck, what can you do? We can say, we can do this. Because no one could do anything for them when they were there, really.
And so basically what would happen is during reports and presentations, the financial control of the time would be presenting, saying, hey, this is what we spend our money on, or saying, hey, no one's come to us, so we haven't really done anything, but having them consistently on reports and presentations.
Could I just ask that the language be updated so it says they have to be transparent? Or
You can make a motion for that.
I'll try to remember that.
Oh, Joe thought he was all done.
No, my computer's like.
Should I make a motion now or later?
Yes.
Can I motion that we add that
they must report what they spent during the important presentation.
Yes.
Let me know when he's ready.
Okay, Haley.
I would like to second that motion.
Megan?
Oh.
Okay, and then,
You gonna vote on this?
oh, right, sorry, my bad. Okay, all those in favor of adding this to that section?
Oh, yeah.
Keep your raising hand high. Opposed? Okay, that was much easier. Okay, passes. Woo. All right, number 12. Line items in the club's budget are considered a one-time allocation for a single and limited purpose. Internal reallocations of the club budget are subject to the SGA Executive Board approval. The SGA Executive Board reserves the right to deny a request of reallocation prior to being placed on the agenda. The SGA Executive Board will provide a written statement in the event of a denied reallocation. The SGA advisor and Director of Student Life may override the SGA Executive Board's decision. We struck out once presented to the SGA body and must be passed by a 2/3 majority. The Executive Board should be able to make the decision of whether or not a reallocation is appropriate. Time and time again, we've had very, what's the word I'm looking for? Good reallocations, basically what the club needs, and they're not trying to do something that's corrupt. And the Executive Board knows that we've never denied reallocation before it's come to the SGA. So we think that's something that the Executive Board is competent of deciding for themselves. And that it kind of seems to be a waste of time a lot of the time during open meetings because it's always approved because we've never had a club doing it viciously.
So it just takes up the reallocation aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yes, so it would be up to the
immediate.
Executive Board.
Okay.
Instead of voting yes every time, it has to be immediate.
Okay. So adding two elected representatives that you can appeal if you don't have a 2.5 to be an elected representative. And then the SGA will release percentages and numbers to the public. This is regarding elections within 48 hours of the closure of the election. So this allows the advisor to have more time to release information. Originally it was 24 hours, and say the advisor has a really busy week because they are also dealing with residential life or anything else that she is doing, and it's just after spring day, getting all that stuff settled. So we want to allow the advisor more time to get that information out in case they're really slow.
Just another thing to add too is that it helps in that you can notify the people who were, like who did win the election, within and give them more than like 2 minutes to respond before it comes to everyone. So.
And then election petitions for elected representatives will be available within the first week of classes. They will be due no later than 48 hours prior to the first day of elections. It was originally 72 hours, but we want to give people more time, basically, to fill out their petitions and really contemplate if this is something they want to do. So this gives them an extra day to decide, or get those in case they have a really busy first couple weeks. Okay, 3 unexcused absences per academic year from a regularly scheduled SGA meeting. We struck out or one town meeting or any combination thereof, because we already made that stipulation if you missed 3 of your town meetings that you lose your voting rights. So we struck that out of this. Shall be grounds for automatic dismissal. Individuals do not have to be brought through the impeachment process. The validity of excused absences will be determined by the president or advisors. Number 5, this is regarding the clubs. To be in good standing with the student government, you have to have an active constitution. Initially, it said that has been reviewed by the SGA within the past 4 years. We don't think that's absolutely necessary. We encourage clubs to be looking at their constitution if it's completely outdated and it's something that doesn't apply, then you should be revisiting that and coming back. But if your constitution works and it's 5 or 6 years old, then it still works. And then 7, must submit monthly club status reports to the SGA. Executive board, we struck that completely. That's maintaining an active roster and having the SGA have that.
And that's what club and committee updates are for.
Yeah. All financial paperwork and information must be submitted through the SGA financial controller within 5 days of the action. The SGA financial controller shall have the power to freeze the budgets of any clubs until the proper paperwork is submitted. That's, never mind, ignore that first one.
Ignore the first one.
Second letter A, we struck that all clubs' constitutions must be reviewed by the SGA every 4 years to remain valid. We believe that should be done on a club level. And we're just keeping the responsibility to you. And then we added letter F. We learned from the modeling one thing in that it would have been really helpful to have a travel form that said, this is the contact person, this is the contact person you will have on campus, this is where the communication is going to happen. So we want to add a travel form before you can ask to do a request. Or before you go on a trip whatsoever, even if it's coming strictly from a club funding, you have to fill out a travel form before you go on a trip. Okay, letter G, student attendance at conferences is supported to assist the leadership of the student organizations. Okay, we struck out seniors graduating may not receive SGA funding in their final semester. Exceptions to this policy can be handled on a case-by-case basis. We took that out because second semester seniors can still benefit this college immensely. Whether or not they're using it partially to market for a job, because then they're winning along. They're still putting out a good name for the college and still benefiting the student body in return. And they can still bring stuff back. We recognize that information they bring back may not be passed on, but we want the SGA to recognize that there's all second semester seniors going, and there's nothing that's really going to be brought back to the club or to the campus to be kept going, or information that, like the critic, if all of them are second semester seniors and want to go to a conference to make their newspaper better, then maybe that's not a good idea, because then who's going to stay and pass on that information? So we want the student government to consider that themselves and to be critical of that, but we don't want to have that stipulation in our constitution that say no second semester seniors can go. This is the SGA budget, Senate budget, and we added a number 11, which is the leadership banquet, which they come to us every year and ask for, and we always fund it because it's a great way to recognize student leaders on this campus, and so we want to add it to the Senate budget. This won't take into effect until 2 years from now because of the way our budgeting process goes. But we want that to be a part of the SGA budget so that it's automatic and that it happens and they don't have to keep coming back. And then we talked about senior week funding. $8,000 for about 100 students that participate in senior week we thought was a lot of money to spend on such a small amount of students, but we still want to contribute to this because they're graduating seniors. This is their last hurrah. And we are going to talk to the people who put on senior week. I can't remember their names specifically, but we're going to talk to them and say, hey, the SGA is thinking about reducing the amount that they contribute. So we don't want to blindside them. And as a heads up, next year we are going, or the SGA is going to have Constitution Committee before budgeting, so that the following year budgeting can take into effect for the Senate count.
Yes.
So the $6,000 change, if we talk to them like, hey, no, we can't really do senior week, then the SGA can still change it, so change it back so that this doesn't actually come into effect. So keep that in mind. Okay. All club proposals must be submitted online by the first academic week in March. This is for budgeting. So we pushed it from February to March to switch around the dates of Constitution Committee and budgeting. So Constitution Committee will have it in February, budgeting will happen in March. And then Finance Committee will consider, evaluate, and finalize the budget as described in Section 4 by the end of the last academic week in March instead of February. Okay. And then prior to the first meeting, the Finance Committee, all members must submit a list of clubs they are currently a member of. As we sit in the room, we say, are you anyone who's an active member of Twilight Players? Leave the room. If you're an active member, you leave the room. We trust you all to be unbiased and we trust you all to be open. And
we're such a small community in a tight-knit group that we know if you're a part of a club. So if you're not leaving when you know you're supposed to, then we'll address it. But we trust you all with that, and we don't think you need to submit to us a list of club you're a part of. And then we struck out number 6, which is if at any time through phases 1, it should say 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of budgeting, the magic number is reached, or the budget falls within an acceptable percentage or free range, no greater than 7%, then phase will be completed and the SGA executive board will notify the members of the finance committee. This basically takes out 1, having to release the magic number, and 2, having to stop with having 7% left over of our projected number. So this year we projected that the 10% will go to JV still, and we fell within 7% of extra money we would have that goes into the general fund. So this will mean that the SGA, if we get to 7%, that we will have going to the general fund, we don't have to stop it there immediately. We can keep going through and analyzing clubs and the money they're getting, and we can still make cuts, so it's fair.
Because just because we reach the number doesn't mean we shouldn't still cut things that are irrational.
And then we critically go through clubs and not through others to do more cuts. So it's just unfair because clubs were higher up on the list.
Or in alphabetical order.
Okay.
I have a question on something that was on the last page. Yeah, my only concern with the submitting the proposals online by the first academic week in March was that it wouldn't be announced to the to all the clubs as a whole.
Yeah, so like we did this year, before we left for the semester break in December, we announced when you come back from break in February, the due date for your club budget proposal is due on this date. When we came back in January, we announced it again. We announced it at every meeting and sent out a bunch of emails saying, this is when your budget proposal is due. So this is just changing when the budget proposal is due, but the executive board is still expected to notify clubs that, hey, this is the due date.
And this is actually a later date, so if anything, it gives you more time to think about it. This isn't like trying to remove time, this is adding time for budgeting so that you have more time to look at it and submit it.
The SGA Constitution shall become effective on the first business day following its adoption by the membership and referendum. We struck out to be valid, the SGA Constitution must first be approved by 2/3 majority vote of the SGA prior to being brought before the student body. At least 10% of the body must vote to ratify the Constitution. We struck out that middle section because we absolutely made the Constitution Committee available for everyone sitting in this room. You have Wednesdays at 8 p.m. as a time allotted to SGA. And that we provide that opportunity. If you didn't come to the Constitution Committee to propose changes, you chose not to make that vote or not to contribute to this process. And we think it's redundant to bring it in front of the SGA again and vote on it like we will tonight. So the Constitution Committee should be trusted that they have the best in mind for the student body and to let the student body directly decide on those decisions. And that's it. And now we move to motions. So if anyone has any certain items specific, does anyone keep your hand up only if you have something specifically you want to talk about? Yes.
The whole like 2.5 GPA or by appeal, like I think it should follow the same process that applies to like an athletics here. If you don't meet a certain GPA, then you shouldn't be allowed to participate. I know friends that are working very hard that still can't participate because they don't meet some minimum GPA.
Well, that's how it used to be. Well, that's how it is now, actually. And there have been concerns because there are people who are capable of holding these positions, but they're struggling just with the grade that they're awarded. Maybe that current semester they have a professor who is much more difficult and they haven't adjusted to that. So their GPA went down for a semester and now they're not eligible. So we want to take into consideration that people are still hardworking regardless of what their GPA says. So the appeal process shows that if a student is willing to go through this appeal process
and work with the advisor to say, like, hey, I really want to do this and I'm very capable of it, and that they're willing to go out of their way to get this position, that they have a chance to run for that position. And that'll be up to currently Erin and Meredith.
And it's not a guarantee, like the appeal doesn't mean you're immediately on it to appeal. They have to prove themselves.
Yes.
Have you appealed to the athletic department about that?
No, I told a GPA well about what to play, and the athletic department GPA comes from the NCAA. You have to meet it in the months.
Ashley,
No, I can't, you gotta see your hand.
hold on, Ashley. What did you have?
Oh, yeah, I wanted to make a motion to approve the changes that was made by the Constitution Committee and.
Haley, did you say?
I would like to second Ashley as well.
Okay, Sarah. All those in favor of approving the changes made by the Constitution Committee and the last in the motion in the middle of this that we voted on? All those opposed? Okay. Okay, other business. Let me look at my notebook really quick. Okay. We have SGA elections coming up for the executive board. The actual elections happen, I believe, the week after spring day. And basically, to run for an executive board position, it's the week of, it's the week of spring day. So basically, online there's a petition on our website where you get 150 signatures from the student body saying, hey, I support this person to be put on the ballot for the SGA executive board position that they're applying to. You turn that in to the SGA executive board or advisor. Meredith will go and make sure that you didn't write in a bunch of fake names. That's why the signatures on your petitions have to be legible. So Meredith can make sure that they're real people and you're not writing like Pocahontas. But just to make sure that you are willing to reach out to students, that people know who you are and you're capable of communicating with the student body in at least 10% of them. Because you're supposed to be a representative of the entire student body as part of the executive board. And then after you turn in your petition, you're put on the ballot. And what you do from there is basically you campaign for yourself and say, hey, I want to do this position, this is why. And we hold caucuses, or not caucuses, wow, open forums where any contested position comes and talks about why they're fit for the job, what they want to do, and they take questions from whatever audience that we have. We always invite uncontested positions to come and say what they really want to do, just for voter knowledge.
I went and I ran uncontested both times.
And you still answer questions.
Nobody can beat Matt Green. Matt Green, can you like knock out me?
I think Mickey Mouse was a close second in the last election.
Every year we have big names. Sometimes Jesus Christ gets written in. So, you know, he has a fair shot. So does anyone have any questions on the process of running?
Petitions are due the Monday after spring break, so and they're available online now. So if you go to lindensga.com and then under the About section, there's an election info tab. You can download the petition from there. So again, it's due the Monday after break. So if you're interested, you probably should get one now, because sometimes getting 150 signatures takes a while, sometimes it doesn't. But obviously starting early is better than not. Yeah. And I'll have to print them off to have in the office this month.
And if you're interested in any of the positions and you don't know exactly what we do, come talk to us after meetings, when we're in the office, email us. We would be more than happy to go through what we do every day, what is expected of you in the position.
Even if you're just thinking about it and you don't really know and you want to know more about the position before you decide, we're very receptive to come to talk to us. We sit in the office and a lot of the time we're just bored, so please give us some company. We very much enjoy it. Ashley?
Can we run for more than one position, or is it like one position that we go?
You have to run for one position. You can't be elected in 2 different positions.
We're not elected for 2 positions, but run for one.
Meredith, what would you say? You're the one who says you could run for 2. Could you run for multiple positions?
I mean, I don't think there's anything in the Constitution that says you can't, but I wouldn't recommend doing it though. I think that's really, because I feel like if you're trying to show people that you're committed to one position, then you should really be trying to do that. I don't, again, it doesn't say in the Constitution, I don't think that you can't, but I would strongly encourage you not to do that. So pick one, really so that people know what you're running for and have a solid reason for why you want to run for it.
Are there any other questions? I encourage all of you to take interest in it, because honestly, it's a very rewarding job to do. And as frustrated as I get sometimes with like everything I have to do for SGA, and sometimes I struggle with decisions that are made, but in the end, it's very rewarding, and it's given me a great experience being here. And I don't think I would like Linden as much as I do if I didn't do this. I would probably just be one of the people who are like, oh, I can't wait to get out of here. Like, I can't stay in this college. So it's very, very rewarding, and you see the entire college in a much different light in this position.
I think this semester has been a lighter semester on you. I think there hasn't been a lot of like.
It looks like it. I've gotten better at kind of just learning to take things as they come and to just be like, okay, well, we're still being productive and accepting that. And I still get frustrated with decisions that are made. And don't get me wrong, like I trust in all of you in the decisions that you make. And I keep in mind that you have what's in mind for the best, what's best for the student body. So as frustrated as I may get, I try not to show it because I trust in all of you and I want you all to know that when you make decisions. So just be interested, or even if you're not interested in running, I encourage you to talk to us about what we do, because it's really important to know what we do. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay, so we got feedback from JD about what he's been spending his money on, so we're going to report this off to you.
Wow.
Okay, so look through it. Do you want explanation? Yes.
I heard from exercise science faculty that we do not want televisions in the fitness facility. It defeats the purpose of the fitness facility. You are there to exercise.
Yeah, but if you're on the treadmill for an hour, then it's all boring.
Well, then.
And the other side of the body fell down.
I'm sorry, Meredith. You are the one person that wants a television.
I think that decision is basically based on like demand from people who don't work in the fitness facility. And
I know.
This would be great. I agree with the fans very much though.
Yes, the
It's
fans
so
are needed. The fans are needed. The monitors you need to take it up with the faculty in the exercise zone because they're not for it.
Haley, you look confused.
No, I'm reading.
Okay.
There's a lot to read. So like, okay, I want to know when we have a certain club that like say, so like the education department, they came to us, they requested, we denied them, they go to Jonathan Davis. Like, I don't like that. I don't like how that we as a body can deny them. Our constituents did not want them to be funded. But then, and I know there's no decision on the project made yet, but like then they can turn around and go to Dean Davis and say, we want the money, and then but like, that doesn't.
Well, one thing we're talking about right now with JD is we're trying to set up a meeting with him as the executive board to talk about what our options for the next semester are. He's very receptive about having a committee with students on it. So that might help some of this disjunction, students sitting there and saying, well, the student government denied it, so maybe we should really take that into consideration, and maybe this really isn't the best way to go. Or sometimes it's happened in the past where things have been funded and maybe they shouldn't have. Or they were funded and maybe they should have.
Yeah.
But, and so that gives the opportunity for those people, well, maybe it should have been funded and it really could benefit the student body.
I feel like, I don't know.
Or something like the assist trip would be in this room, people wanted to give them a lot more money, but we couldn't because of the Constitution.
substitution rules, so I mean, it's not exactly like what you're
Yeah.
saying, but it's just like another, to see like another club go to them, just like that's one example of, because this trip is a great opportunity for them to really help the service and grow, but as a SGA, we have a stipulation that you can only have like 3
Yeah.
person. So like that's, I'm not saying, it's not quite exactly what you're saying, but I'm just giving an example of when.
No, yeah, it makes sense for there.
Well, one thing I want to talk about, since you kind of brought that up, is we, talked about putting forth a referenda vote, for what we're gonna do for the student, the 10% of the student activities fee. Jonathan Davis said if the student body voted for it to go back to SGA, that he would honor that. But I don't want it to be either Jonathan Davis has control of it or the student body has control over it. I think it would be great to give multiple options and for an opportunity for students to write something in. So I want to propose that we have a ballot that says, Jonathan Davis has control over 10% of the student activity fee. That's option A. Option B is Jonathan Davis and a small committee will head 10% of the student activities fee. Option B. Option C would say the student government has control of all of the student activities fee. And then option D would be other. Please write in what you think would be best. So I would really like that to be a referendum that we put forth, honestly, as soon as we can. And to kind of advertise that we're doing this and that it affects what money people put in. So, yeah, you know what I mean.
Is there any questions about anything that's on the screen first before we talk about whatever that's going to?
What is?
The student activity staff salaries, why?
Jeannie gave $15,000 to Erin Rossetti for the added responsibility that she took on because she is now in charge of overseeing CAB and SGA.
I don't want to say. I'm sorry, Erin. I'm not okay with that. I agree that Erin should get extra money because she's putting up with us because we're a hassle. But I don't think it should be my personal activity.
Well, I think this is an important discussion to have too, because Erin taking on this responsibility, I mean, she has done extra things that haven't been done in the past. We've always had the SGA advisor come in and talk about stuff that the campus should be doing. And I think it's great that Erin has been here consistently every meeting, and almost every meeting, bringing this stuff up that's happening on campus or like stuff like that. So I think it's an important conversation for us to talk about things that are concern for people. Yes.
So wait, that's for her to be the advisor for the student government?
She's kind of an advisor, yeah. She oversees CAB and SGA.
Okay. So what is that like title?
So she used to be just the director of residence life, now she's
Right.
director of student life, so that encompasses student activities, residence life, commuter affairs, a lot of conduct, case, like everything.
Okay, so like what does this job entail that she do?
She's right over there.
What do you do? Like I know like you're helpful with residents and everything and you're so great, but like I just wanted to know like what this part entails.
So I think it may be helpful really for you to read what Jonathan said, because I think he addressed this specifically in an email to you, so maybe that would help. And so my responsibility is related to this in terms of like how this then relates to the student activities fee is that my responsibility is to oversee this, to have this discussion with to meet with Meredith regularly, to meet with Jeanette regularly, to talk to both of these executive boards, to see everything that's going on, to give suggestions, recommendations based on my experience. My experience in being on CAB when I was a student and then coming here and doing all that. So that's where that goes to. I mean, I can't speak to, I guess I'm put in a weird position where I didn't make this decision. So like I just want to be clear that I'm not, this is kind of a weird position for me to be in.
For sure.
Talking about that, I guess, but yeah, that's what my goal is. That's what that's about. And so
I guess, I mean, I would like to think that, you know, directly impacting student activities and student involvement on campus in a variety of different ways. The active residential life has been my focus for many years, but this is a fantastic opportunity for me to have and to take this on and to be a part of it. And I'd like to think that I've, you know, put a lot into being able to do that and will continue to do that. So that's
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly read, well, maybe not quickly, but I'm gonna read the email that Jonathan did send me. Funding a small portion of one of the student life positions out of the 10% is not something I wanted to do initially, but it's something I discussed in my presentation to the SGA when the 10% decision was made last spring. And that was a very long time ago, so we probably completely forgot about it. I just don't have enough money in my operating budget to fully fund what is needed, and I believe the investment has paid off. In this case, the money will be transferred into payroll to fund a portion of the Director of Student Life annual salary. This is a common practice at 2 of the other 3 residential schools in the VSC, where an activity fee exists, but Linden has only used about 5% of the total budget for that purpose. Again, it is not something that I wanted to do, but it was always a possibility. The Director of Student Life position has been a fantastic addition to the staff this year, formerly just Director of Residential Life and not responsible for campus activities, and has really made a difference in planning and execution of a wide variety of events around campus. So that was Jonathan Davis's explanation when I asked him what exactly it meant and what it was and why he funded it.
Essentially, it goes back to the Constitution too, how we changed everything from Jonathan Davis to Erin. Erin essentially pulled on a new role of partially what JD was doing, but at the same time, Erin does much more because we never really met with JD. Erin has really brought us all in as a group now, so it's more contact essentially. And then, of course, there's other roles that she has to do with the advisors that I don't know about. But you guys meet and stuff.
Can we invite Jonathan Davis to our next meeting so that we can talk to him about this stuff? Because I think that clarification is nice right now, but it's not too productive for us to just talk about this stuff without him here. And I think that now that we know what this stuff is, to review it with him would be more fun.
We'll definitely invite him to the next meeting, and we plan to. We just got this today, so we wanted to make sure we presented it to you since we had it. So we'll definitely invite him. Are there any other questions that anyone has right now? Kayla?
I would just like to say that I like what I'm seeing, having it on the list, seeing everything. He kind of just listed some things off, a lot of it did sound like it was a lot of student involvement and but seeing the list and seeing the Earth Day activities and the Memorial Banner for Ed and the softball trips, the different things just kind of, I don't know, it makes it feel a little bit better. I'm a big fan of the $15,000 that I haven't, but yeah.
You're not offended.
Sorry.
I think that really goes back to the whole committee idea, which is what we really talked to the committee about, was if the executive board sat in on this committee as well, then we could report to you every meeting what actually has been spent. And I feel like that has been the biggest issue with this whole circumstance, is that everyone has felt really unsure about things.
And I think if JD were to have a small committee, that you would expect one of the executive board members of SGA to serve on that, as well as another student who may not be involved in SGA. Because when I talked to him about that idea a little bit, he had expressed that he wants someone outside of SGA, but he also wants an executive board member of SGA to kind of be a part of that. But as far as a vote referendum for that, how does everyone feel about those options? So one is for JD to continue what he's been doing. Another option is for him to head a small committee. A third option is for the student government to have full control, and then the other option is for people to specify what specifically they would like to see if they don't like any of the options presented. Megan?
I like those options. I'm just a little bit worried of all the smart Alex in this college who would put in for other I.Roll control of this money. And what if that wins?
Well, I expect. I can see that happening. Honestly,
it probably will happen, but the students who really care will really go for something that they truly believe in. And you know what, some people might not care, but they're like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll vote, and then they write in snarky comments or things that aren't productive, and we deal with that all the time. Even like during elections for SGA, people will take a ballot and not write in anything serious. They won't actually vote for someone, they'll just write in names.
But the people that like, you'd have to have, like, everybody would have to, you know what I mean, like, the majority always goes to the people that I listed. Yes, it could maybe happen if it's like, maybe crazy campaign, but chances are, you should be able to check on boxes.
Yeah. And we want to give that option because if someone doesn't like any of those options, we want to know. And if they specify, then they'll most likely give us the reason why they don't like those options. So I think it's important to provide that opportunity for people to say, hey, I don't like any of these. This is what I'd like to see. Megan?
How much was, JV's budget, I guess?
Roughly the number at the bottom. Matt, do you know specifically?
29.5, I think.
Yeah. Add $1,225 to the total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 29.5.
I would just like to know is why it took so long for us to get this.
Yeah.
That is not something I can answer.
Because of miscommunications and the definition of transparency.
Is this productive?
Yes, it's kind of, I'm gonna defend Jake. Okay, well, we went over this purely in class of who controls what in what department, and Dean Davis controls a lot of stuff. And like, if you look, like, see him in the hallways, he's always like sprinting from meeting to meeting. So like, you know, maybe we could like give him a little bit of a break for not getting this to us right away.
And just for clarification on this side, because I was a little confused, where it says like controller coded, the things that say yes are things that have been paid for. The things that say pending doesn't mean that it's pending this decision, and it's pending to like actually pay for those things because our system takes a while. So everything above the line has been spent. Those two little things are the only two things that haven't been funded.
As we've said in the past, like, it wasn't exactly on him anyways, because we were asked to go to the controller and get the information. We asked for like a month span and didn't do anything, and then JD gave us this list. So I mean, he did react to that not being done the way it was supposed to be done and gave us this. So from a transparency effort, this was a good strike in the right direction. Words struggling.
Okay, does anyone have anything, anything pertaining to this or the referendum? Okay.
Do you want to vote on the referendum thing?
Do people want to vote on the referendum? How many people are in favor of the referendum options that I introduced? Thank you. Is anyone not okay with it? Would anyone like to see anything added? Or taken away? Megan?
Maybe instead of allowing the full 10%, but like knocking that down as a possibility, so not 10%, but 5 necessarily as an option.
Okay.
Get an option for that, just instead of solid number, just say like 10% or like in parentheses for option.
I like that idea. Okay. Let me, Matt, can you write that down for me? Thank you.
Sure.
Ryan?
I know that I was in here the whole time, but I think that no matter what, students should somehow be involved with the control of the fund. So I think possibly, and this is just coming from me, eliminating the option of, even though I approve of the things that JD has done on his own, for the most part, I think eliminating the option of having JD having control over the whole fund and just only including the options where students, there's either a student executive kind of like consolidated, like.
I see where you're coming from, and personally, I feel the same way. But in the long run, it's up for the entire student body to make that decision. So I want to present them with that option up front because it's what has happened here, and there are people in favor of JD having full control. So I want to give them that option specifically to vote for that because it's something that has been adjusted people know all about, just like student government taking the full 10% back if they can and having a small committee. Those are options that have been widely discussed, so I want them to be in the forefront. And then if they want another option, to write in the other option, because it's not something that's in the forefront or has been brought to our attention. So we want to give them that option to bring to our attention. But since those are the forefront options that we've been talking about, we want those to be fully presented.
And ultimately, JD has really expressed wanting this committee to happen. Like, I don't foresee him, if it says just go to him, that you would just be like, oh, I don't want this committee idea anymore. So I feel like regardless, if it does go forward, I feel like he is gonna allow student involvement into it. So just, let's not worry.
No stress.
Do any of you have anything for other business?
Oh, I do.
Joe?
As you left your new zoning reports, please email me. Also, tomorrow I will be sending out a killer request form for spring day. We'll be sending out the funding request.
To
March 25th at 4 p.m. So that's Wednesday. Sorry.
It's a movie. Okay. We're gonna move to something for the We'll start over here, because they haven't done that in a long time.
Oh, we have to get up to that one time.
We'll do that next.
Okay.
All right, side chatter, please. Joe, go ahead.
Now, next week, in the future, everything we have lots of people. We're doing nothing, it's sort of telling us. And we love for once we distribute around schools.
The Office Club is meeting Friday, 3 p.m. in Lab 414. Please join us if you'd like to hear some lovely singing. We'll be singing to Stay With Me, My Saint Man, Kelly singing, and also we're doing some conversations with some days, so if you want to know that and want to know that, you can come.
Yeah.
We also will be having, we're planning meeting and then the week before, spring break.
So yeah, we have, and that's an awesome early start. Everything went really well, it's like record attendance and everything else, so thanks so much.
Help sponsor a pretty successful area. We're going to do a real generous weekend, but we're also helping sponsor.
I.Roll Club is finishing planning for a bouldering competition on Monday, March 30th, and we're still meeting on Mondays at 9.
We just finished our semester in the pancake fundraiser at St. Patrick's Day pancakes, so et cetera, got some of those. And then March 28th, Red Team Bond is playing their last Parker Todd show there, and Ryan Collins and some was playing that show as well as part of our last big fundraising effort for Greg Best Day for the rest of that. So finish off and that starts at
The 8th, this Friday, from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., we're going to be hosting the high school closing exam competition in PAC room 110. So we recommend all of you for that.
That's cool, that a really successful weekend with, between the show we had at DFW with Tom McCollum, thank you for coming down and doing that. With this on Saturday, it was great. We got a lot of things from it, definitely want to do some food on it. And, but Saturday night is the Rail Jam, and that was a lot of fun. But I actually want to be fun for everyone, so I appreciate it. Yeah.
This guy with scholarships.
Thank you.
Yeah, no new.
No new updates.
SPJ recently, we, Monday, Tuesday, and today, we helped out at the auctions, at the Kiwanis auction in St. Johnsbury. We volunteered for slots, we helped out with odd jobs. We had our meeting last Wednesday, and, currently the biggest thing, one of the big things we're working on right now is getting up new jackets, but we're currently figuring out a new design, so other than that, that's it.
Is anyone here looking into having I'm David, probably in the same room, and having lots of fun watching funny things.
Mandatory club is Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, usual, or 7 to 12. In Black 411. Black 411 and 412. We're trying to get more people to turn out for meetings and such. We're also kind of trying to plan out a 24-hour weekend, which is, the annual event. And I can tell you, that there will be a super transport store to kick it off, and a Mary program to end it and with cash. We're probably going to do one more. So that's. If you want any info, just email me, and we'll stop around with that LSC.
Looking forward to
Alright, Twilight Players had a successful murder mystery dinner. It was great fun for all who were involved, and other than that, we have no markers.
The sports broadcasting club has no limits.
The hockey club over the weekend, a lot of the hockey guys helped run and participated in the Ed Horn Memorial Tournament. And a lot of people turned out, and definitely that's going to keep going on.
The rugby club had their annual snowball tournament over the weekend. The Linden State Rugby team made it to the championship game and lost by 1 try, which is 5 points. It's unfortunate. We also have another tournament coming up in April at Williams College in Williams, Massachusetts.
Guys, I run out of the village shine like an hour and a half. Ultimate has no new updates. I picked up Assist tab. Assist has meetings every Tuesday at 7 o'clock and it's at 2:15, so I stopped by if you want to do community service.
Beta currently has their penny wars for each department, in the student center. I believe it's from 11 to, but I'm not entirely sure on those times. But it will go on through the end of this week, so definitely quite silver coins in there into the pennies, so.
It's $2 too.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
The LSC weightlifting club is still holding daily games, I guess. 3 times a week, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. in the fitness facility. Please come, open to everybody, including faculty, Meredith.
Those are like 6 p.m. I'd be there.
Oh, I'm sure. Okay, and then I also want to put this little thing in, but I went to a cab event a few weeks ago. The comedian Chloe Hilliard, is that her name? Yeah, Hilliard. She was hysterical. However, I was a little disappointed because I think there were legit 7 people there. And when you're a comedian and you are traveling around the country to perform for people, and you show up to a college who got you super psyched up to be here, and then you walk in and your audience is a number of 7 people, do you know how awkward it is laughing at a person when there's only 7 people around you? They might not have thought it was as funny as you, and you are the loudest person that laughs. So, Yes, and then they have another one tomorrow night. Her name is Taylor Tomlinson. I'm sure Sarah's gonna know.
I will update you.
So I'll let Sarah do that, but like seriously come because they are so funny. And Kat like handpicked these people to come perform for us from conferences and videos online and everything. So they did a really good job, and I was not disappointed by going to the last one. So that's really good on that.
There's no new updates. Women Catholic Association has no new updates.
Back is continuing to work with Special Working Vermont every Monday night. And as much as it doesn't look like it outside, spring sports are starting their games this week. And we've been assured by the summer that every home event will happen. So we'd love to have a few families out.
So Cav, these next couple weeks, tomorrow, we have two events going on. First at 12:30, Special Olympics Vermont will be coming in to speak. That's at 12:30 p.m. in the theater, and they will be joined by two athletes as well as their parents, and they will be talking as well. So again, 12:30 in the theater. This is Project Unsung Heroes Awareness Series. Also, as Kyle mentioned, Taylor Tomlinson will be coming in tomorrow night at 9 o'clock in this room. Another comedian. She's really funny. Highly recommend you guys come out. Sunday night in here, we will be featuring again Into the Woods at 6 p.m. On Tuesday, we will be featuring The Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies, 9 o'clock in here. Also on Thursday, the 26th, Cab and the Veterans Club will be teaming up for another Unsung Heroes Awareness Series on post-traumatic stress disorder. That's from 12:30 to 2 in here. Please come out for that. It should be a very informative day. On Friday, we have the Amazing Race, and you guys, if you want to participate, meet outside of the South Office at 7 o'clock on that, again, that's Friday the 27th. Sunday, we are again featuring The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies in here at 6. And that following Tuesday, we will be featuring movie Fed Up in here at 9 o'clock. And as always, if you would like to stay in events, or help plan events, or just come to a meeting, we meet on Tuesdays in A/214 at 6:30. And for updated events, please go to newsandcab.com and check out all of our Facebook pages.
Also, we are making a mission to make 1,000 paper trains for cancer patients.
Yes.
Tonight's been working on the meeting.
There will be, there are two programs in this. We will put them out on the CAB pages. It should be up there. It's end of March.
Yep, it's March 24th, and I believe it is the second Tuesday in May.
Yeah, make that.
Make this. So if you guys would please come help out with that, it should be a lot of fun. And like Joe said, guys been working back there really, really hard, and it's supposed to be a fun thing. So please help out with that if you can.
All right, clubs, for those that have sent me, posters for events you're doing, thank you. If you guys can continue doing that whenever you guys have events. Yeah, send them to me, andrew.terry@lsc.vsc.edu. Thank you.
All right, I have no new updates.
Many updates. Guys, my sweater was a hood. And also, Megan is not here to update us on her fish. I'm concerned, no new updates.
Well, I'm a different Megan. I still have my catfish from last year, so they refuse to die.
What, do you want to die?
No, actually, when they both died, I did another goldfish with the hands.
All right, Brittany.
I'd like to say that someone in Rogers is struggling with our washing machines, and they're broken right now, and people are being disrespectful with throwing people's stuff away, and it's just really stressful. That's it.
I have a reminder, clubs, I expect you all during club committee updates to report what your clubs discussed on what you can do for the college campus. I didn't announce this earlier, but I expect elected representatives to do the same thing and reach out and talk to students in general, not necessarily just the students you represent, but talk to all students and come back with something, whether people said they don't really know, but they really want to help, or you didn't get really any interest, I want to report. And the same for the executive cabinet, I expect the same thing. I think we should all be very proactively trying to do something for the college. Yeah, homework from SGA. You love me, don't you? Rugby.
Motion to end tonight's meeting.
Spectrum.
Second.
Spirit Squad.
Don't call.
All those in favor of ending tonight's meeting? Opposed? Any trash with you? Throw it away, take your name tags to the front of the table. Leave this room neat, clean.